Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we get set for the fifth running of the Elite Racing League Indianapolis 500 here on the Flat Out Racing Network. I'm Seth Cole, being joined here by Samuel Dyer. And Sam, we talked about this before we even came on the air. These drivers, 200 laps, they're in for a long one. They're going to be physically and mentally tired at the end of this race. But what do you think these guys are thinking as they get ready to take the green flag?
500 laps, 500 miles, 200 laps. It is a long race. I think a lot of these people just want to survive the first couple of laps, figure out where everyone's at, who's going to be fast, who's not going to be fast, just survive the first quarter.
Yeah, in order to finish the race first, you have to first finish. And these drivers are going to have quite a task on their hands, at least at the very start as well, because we are doing regular IndyCar 3-wide starts, as these drivers here are going to be getting ready to grid themselves. They currently have themselves lined up according to where they're supposed to be, but we will be running the first lap under pacing, and they will grid, and we will go green on lap 2. Chad Frankenfield got the pole position last Friday and pulled a qualifying. The driver that he edged out by 2 1,000ths, however, will not be in this race, Christopher. So it will be Matt Hollabaugh in the middle line, and Henry Bennett will be lined up on the outside line. But 3 wide starts at the very beginning here. I think these drivers, they all want to at least make the first lap. They don't want to find themselves on the end of the tow hook with only 1 lap completed.
Yeah, a lot of them actually practice during practice, trying to see if they can get the 3 wide starts a little nicer and cleaner than just doing it off the cuff. A lot of them were taking a lot easier into the corners, and the first about 9 rows were really clean, and all the cars behind them were about side by side in the corners.
So we're going to take a look here at the starting grid. You will not, actually, no, we can't take a look at the starting grid. I just realized because nobody laid down any times. So as they will be coming around here to get themselves gridded 3 wide, we'll give you what the starting lineup would look like here for this Indy 500. So some drivers that qualified last week are not in the event, and some drivers that did not qualify last week are in the grid. Chad Frankenfield, Matt Hollabaugh, and Henry Bennett, that's going to be row 1. Joshua Furr, John Poole III, and Thalis Toledo, that's going to be row 2. Vincent Isabella, Ben Fuller, and Chris Wilhite, that's going to be row 3. Our in-race reporter, Robert F. Kenny, he will be alongside Vic Bloom and Pedro Gomez. Carlos E. Aguilar, Michael Goodman, and Cass Silman, that's going to be your, I believe, 4th row. Then you got Dustin Dewar, Aaron Roofs, and Ethan Reasoner. In the next row will be Johnny Thomas, Rishav Khosla, and Dan Lee Ench. Then the next row will find Liam Sheen, Jeff Murray, who I believe was a late addition into the grid, and Valmore Ehrenhart. And in the next row, you get Joshua Personet, Richard Hines, Victor Del Porto. Tate Lytle will be in the next row alongside Kendall Noah Player and Shane DiMantova. And in the final row, we've got Jeffrey Marconi, and Andy Trupiano. As you can see, they are gridding and getting ready to go 3 wide. And one thing, Sam, that they told me during qualifying was a lot of drivers were not worried about starting mid-pack towards the rear, and we've seen it here in practice too. With this package, you're really able to make a lot of passes if you time it right and are able to get the draft and slingshot on the straightaway. So I don't think we're going to see a race dominated by a driver, especially in 200 laps.
Yeah, I mean, this package wants cars to stay together. The draft is super strong here at Indy, and these cars will be slingshotting on all the straightaways. Practically, we'll be seeing passes throughout the whole entire race. It's going to be draining on the racers. I mean, they can't getting into that rhythm that most cars get into. You're just going to be slingshotting past everyone and just trying to get your rhythm and your momentum going.
So here we go, heading towards the restart zone. It'll be 3 wide, 3 wide, 3 wide, all the way back through the field. As Chad Frankenfield is going to lead them down. Up through the gears he goes. The Indy 500 is underway.
Chad Frankenfield getting a huge start in front of everyone, but we're going to see, does that work out for him? Or are we going to be seeing cars catching up here in the draft?
Yeah, you can see right there, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, they're all getting lined up there. Hollabaugh, Bennett, Furr. If they get lined up, it's just like a super speedway where three cars will definitely run down one car. They're going to have a big run down the back straightaway. That's Henry Bennett making a move. 3 wide, possibly for the lead into 3.
3 wide. If they went in 3 wide, that would have been really dangerous. This is still a long race. It's only lap 1.
And Henry Bennett is going to take the top position. It looks like Frankenfield wants it back. Who's going to lead lap 1? Low side, Frankenfield. Top side, Henry Bennett. Ticker says it was Henry Bennett on the outside line leading the first lap. Getting themselves into single file, getting themselves into at least an orderly fashion. Hopefully be able to go into a long green flag run. Something that we will have to keep an eye on in this race as well as we get into the latter stages is the possibility of seeing these drivers have to make green flag pit stops. And pit road is not an easy place to get onto when you're going almost 230 miles per hour.
It really isn't. A lot of people were trying to practice during practice on getting in pit road. A lot of them were very successful, but just getting woed up because you are flying around this track.
Well, I'll tell you what, Chad Frankenfield, Henry Bennett jostling for the lead. One takes it in one corner, the other one takes it in the next corner, and I'm surprised that Matt Hollabaugh and John 3rd and 4th have not been able to capitalize, get up here and make it a 3-4 man fight for the top position, but maybe they're just right now being very interested spectators.
Yeah, I mean, just waiting is probably the best part here. I mean, everyone's going to be staying so close together, and it's such a long race. Waiting is not a bad move.
Slingshot to the inside again there for Chad Frankenfield. Now, one thing we should also mention for these drivers is these guys are out there not only racing to take the checkered flag here in an Indianapolis 500. They not only want to kiss the brakes, but they also have a purse on the line. I believe the top 5 finishers are going to receive money at the end of this race. So that makes the coveted victory even more of a temptation for these drivers to maybe make a move they wouldn't necessarily make in the first 50 laps in the final 10 laps.
So far, everyone's keeping it clean, and that's good to see. We're about 6 laps in. A lot of these cars staying single file until we get to the back of the pack, all the way to the back. Where we're seeing a lot of action
now,
here in the 25th position.
Yeah, as of right now, it seems like just about the top 20 have all gotten themselves single file. It's only quite a number of drivers here. That's, I believe, Jeff Murray, Joshua Personette in this mix, Richard Hines in the 87. They're all racing side by side. Some things that I saw in practice that I was kind of interested to see, because we didn't get a whole lot of an idea of what these cars could really do in qualifying because they were all out with single car runs. But a couple things that we saw. Number one, the ability to pass, with the drivers doing a lot of slingshots, not only here in the race, but over in practice, but also saw a couple drivers be able to make that outside line work with being able to get a draft run.
Yeah, I mean, if you can stay in the draft, you pretty much can run anywhere on this track. Being side by side, though, in the corners is tricky and a little bit scary with the arrow being switched up a little bit. You can lose the back end if you're side by side. Oh, we saw a car just smash the wall. Who was that? That was...
I think that might have been... Was that Liam Sheen, perhaps?
I believe so.
Nope, he fell out. Now, I believe...
It might have been Sheen, but he dropped out of the race. I was just going through the field.
He did.
I just saw a car just smash into the wall, and I believe it was Sheen dropping out, so there was not a caution. So we just keep on running.
Him either, and I think the car kept going straight, which is why the yellow flag didn't come out either. But yeah, as you mentioned, he is now 1 lap down. I believe he actually has fallen out of the server as well, so connection issues. Unfortunate for Liam, who I believe qualified for this Indy 500 in the, I believe it was the 23rd position.
And while that incident was going on, Chad Frankenfield is going to be going back up into the lead.
I've also noticed that Matt Hollabaugh has shaken John Poole III. He's now in control of 3rd place. So now, with this exchange we keep seeing between Frankenfield and Bennett, that kind of now gives Hollabaugh the opportunity to get up here, see what he's able to do with the 2 race leaders.
These two have just been jostling back and forth, and we're going to see if Bennett's going to be trying to make a move here. It does not look like he's close enough to make it, but Hollabon is close enough to make a move on second if he wants to dive into turn number 1.
That's the closest battle up here at the front of the field between the 12 of Henry Bennett and the 0-2 of Matt Hollabaugh. John Poole the third right there behind as well, and not too far behind him. You got 5th place Vincent Isabella. A lot of drivers kind of were under the radar in qualifying. We saw them go out early, but then there was some cloud cover that seemed to hit towards the end of the session, and the speeds picked up tremendously. And we saw a lot of drivers like Isabella, like Joshua Furr, who right now is in 6th, be able to jump up into the top 10. Gave them good starting track position, and that's helped them at least early on here to be ahead of all the mayhem we've seen going on mid-pack.
Everyone's pretty much sticking single file, which is good to see, and no real cautions have happened yet. Just cycling through to see if there's anyone close.
Don't want to see anybody, have the hardship of retiring early, especially in a 200-lap event. It's easier to swallow the disappointment if you make it, with 20 laps to go, if you wreck out trying to go for a pass. But if you wreck out in the first 15 laps, then it's kind of what was all the effort for? Why did I go out and qualify? Why did I start the race? So, yeah, everybody here, nice to see them, at least for now, racing each other clean, going into a nice long green flag run. And it also brings in the prospect of these drivers doing green flag pit stop strategy. I mean, I would assume coming to pit road the soonest, getting the fresher tires would help you in terms of gaining track position. But then again, Indy cars are a lot different from stock cars.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if people are going to want to come down together. You have teammates that are here racing together. If they're going to come down together, try to draft all the way up to getting back to the field, or just see who has the better fuel mileage strategy.
Drop back here to 9th place running Robert F. Kenny. He, of course, is carrying the black, white, and green colors of Flat Out Racing Network, our in-race reporter. And as we take a look here at him in his race car, you see that he's also sporting the fire suit and everything. If we end up getting an opportunity, we will be talking with Robert F. Kenny, but I think right now we want to just let him concentrate on running his race. If we get like a caution or something, we may talk with him, as he's got his hands full right now with the 70 of Ben Fuller. Good battle here for the 7th position. Fire from Vic Bloom. And boy, Vic actually tried to make the outside line work there through turns 1 and 2. Couldn't quite do it. It almost got crowded up into the wall.
Yeah, that's another thing that's pretty scary about going on the outside, is the wall just creeps up on you. A lot of these people that are running down low love to just throw it back up to the wall, and if you're there, you might be someone's bumper.
And that's another thing about these race cars. They're going in the draft probably about 230 miles per hour. And you have to have the reflexes of a cat, because if something happens in front of you, you've got to be ready at a moment's notice, or else you could find yourself wrecked. So just the way that these drivers, for 200 laps, I can't imagine having to have the mentality, the eyesight, the reflexes necessary for 200 laps to be able to make passes, to be able to avoid wrecks. These drivers, they have to keep themselves in the game, and this is going to be a long race. We're only 15 laps in.
Battle for the 9th place. Ben Fuller is going to get past Robert Kenny for that 9th position.
So he'll move one step higher there into the top 10. A couple of drivers that had pretty good qualifying results, but right now not following up with particularly good runs here in the race, may have fallen back. One of them is the 73 of Michael Goodman. He actually looked like he was destined to start up in the top 10 late in last week's qualifying session, got knocked down to around, I think it was 12th or 13th position in the grid for today's race. Right now he is mired back in the 18th position. And another driver that struggled in qualifying last week, Rishev Kosla, right now in the 20th position. But as of right now, I think these drivers, they're just trying to go out there and get experience, wait and see here after the first round of pit stops potentially. And I honestly think we're seeing a lot of passes going on here, but I honestly think we're going to see pit road be a huge deciding factor in this race, because it's not easy to go from 230 miles per hour down to 55 miles per hour.
Yeah, and we should be seeing a lot of those pit stops around lap 40. Car that I'm seeing that's slowly dropping back is Robert Kenny. He lost another position to Pedro in the number 50 car, and he looked like he was going to lose 11th.
Side there, but it looked like the last couple of corners he wasn't able to hold it down. The bottom almost went up and got the wall there out of turn 1. So he's got his hands full, looks like. And that number 40 machine, that allows Carlos E. Aguiar and Chris Wilhite to start closing in.
This
where the best battling's going on right now.
Yeah, this little cluster,
yeah.
I mean, they are all on top of each other, and this is when it gets a little interesting. I mean, yeah, we're still early in the race, but just by doing this little amount of racing, it's so much strain on these racers. They really have to concentrate right now with how close they are.
And you've got a couple other drivers, Valmore Earnhardt up here. You've got Tate Lytle in this group. I think that's Dan Liesch just on the tail end of this line as well. And it seems like they're all kind of getting wadded up behind the 40 of Robert F. Kenny, who is continuing to lose spots. He just lost 11th to Aguiar, and now he's got, well, thought it was going to be Wilhite for a position, but actually it's Earnhardt coming to the inside, perhaps, for the 12th spot.
Probably going to be seeing a move down here on the front
stretch. Settled out. Things have settled out towards the front. Top 2 have kind of broken away from 3rd place. Continuing to lose spots. Just lost a spot there to the 04. Chris Wilhite right behind. You have a battle going on behind them between Tate Lytle and Thalas Toledo.
Yeah, I mean, looking through the field, it looks like everyone's starting to spread out a little bit, but these positions up here for 11th on back, you got just these little clusters of cars that are just right on top of each other.
Yeah, you maybe have a battle possibly brewing for 4th place. Looks like Vincent Isabella is turning some lap times that might be running John Poole the 3rd down, but he's got about maybe 8 to 10 car lengths between himself and John Poole the 3rd. So to your point, yeah, just around inside the top 10 is where our best battling is going on, with Carlos Aguiar and Valmore Earnhardt, Robert Kenny. All these guys just outside of the top 10. Another thing we might have to start talking about, I don't think as of right now it's an issue. I think the furthest car back from the leader is 20 seconds behind. But dependent on what happens in this race as far as pit road goes, possible pit penalties and everything, we could end up having traffic for the leaders to have to deal with. Now, I would assume at a big track like Indianapolis shouldn't be much of an issue, but if there's some miscommunication between a car that's about to be lapped and the race leader, it could lead to some issues.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the lap times, it is almost a second faster from our leader to our last place runner right now, who's Ethan Reasoner. Which a second
some drivers that I believe. I think we've got some drivers. I don't know if they're having internet connections or if they actually have dropped out. But right now, Dan Liesch is not currently being scored on the running order. Aaron Roofs, Goodman, Rishev Kosla as well. So I don't know if they're having internet issues or if they've actually taken their cars back behind the wall.
Shane
right now.
Shane of the 25 car spun out on the coming off of 3.
It's on pit road now. It didn't bring out a caution though. We're still green.
Looked like he got a little bit into the dirt, got loose, spun it around, kept it close to pit road, so there was no caution. But that is awfully going to put a damper on his race unless a caution comes out and allows him to get back up there.
Started this race, I believe, from the 31st position. And this is going to put him at least one lap down. I think instead of a caution, I think he's hoping for this thing to go green so that way he can maybe cycle back around on the lead lap when the leaders have to hit pit road. Enjoying just about a 2.3 second lead is Chad Frankenfield. 25 laps in, so we're an eighth of the way through. And I think probably, I mean, he was swapping the lead with Henry Bennett quite a bit, but I think probably he would be the Pied Piper of when these drivers are going to maybe hit pit lane. I don't know if there might be some drivers that are running this race backwards, maybe looking at 200 laps and figuring, okay, how far do I have to stretch it to make it on 2 pit stops or 3 pit stops? But I have a feeling in terms of using up the most fuel with having no one to draft off of and out to as big a lead as he's at, I think Chad Frankenfield might be the one to show us just how far these drivers can go on fuel in terms of how many laps they can turn.
Yeah, I am still surprised on how much of a gap Frankenfield's got on Bennett. I thought for sure these cars would be still swapping back and forth for the lead, but he finally got comfortable and has just been gapping on Bennett.
Yeah, he kind of started gapping when we saw the battle for second start heating up between Henry Bennett and Matt Hollabaugh. It kind of seemed like Hollabaugh was dragging Bennett back to him, and I think that little bit of separation was all that Frankenfield needed to be able to, as you said, pretty much gap the 12 car. That Matt Hollabaugh, I don't know if he's having internet issues or not, but he just dropped down from my grid.
Looks like he went into the pit. Pit stops are happening.
Yeah.
Cars are coming in, getting that fuel, getting new tires.
Vincent Isabella was on pit road. Ethan Reasoner was on pit road.
Bennett's
so 27 laps in, and we're starting to get people coming to pit road.
Henry Bennett just went in. A couple other drivers are starting to come in, and we're going to start seeing when is our leader going to come in, though.
Yeah, if I could get to Henry Bennett's car, be able to show him making his pit stop, that'd be great. Keeps falling down the running order on me. There we go. So he's pitting from the second position, so we know that at least the window's kind of open at maybe about lap 26. But I think Frankenfield is going to run it out as far as he can. Maybe around a lap 30, maybe further. We'll wait and see. John Poole III now moves up to second as a result. John Furr, Cass Silman, and Vic Bloom. Actually, sorry, Ben Fuller are your top.
I think right now we also got to watch to see how
That's Henry Bennett.
faster Bennett is going to be over Chad Frankenfield.
Of the race leader did Bennett. I believe still on the lead lap as well.
He is.
One thing about Indianapolis, if you're at least up there within the same vicinity as the race leader, you've got a pretty good chance of coming off of pit road. Still on the lead lap. A couple of other drivers have just hit pit lane. Tate Lytle was on pit road. Carlos Aguiar was on pit road. Joshua Personette, Jeff Murray, Rishav Khosla have all made pit stops now.
Henry Bennett has gone on the pits, and you know where he came out? Right in front of Frankenfield. Frankenfield is right behind Bennett, and we'll see if Frankenfield's able to catch him or if Bennett's going to be able to pull away.
Right now, it's looking like Bennett is actually pulling away a little bit, and Frankenfield is going to come to pit road, so he'll pull away even more now. Race leader is in. It's like the lead's going to be turned over to John Poole III. He's going to stay out. Couple more drivers that also just finished making pit stops. Chris Wilhite was just on pit lane. I'm not certain, but if I'm seeing this correctly, sure, if Henry Bennett took tires on that pit stop.
I mean, based on his lap times, it looks like he's only about a tenth faster than how fast Frankenfield was running.
John Poole III is going to give up the lead to hit pit lane. Looks like Cass Silman in the 6 is going to stay out. I believe Ben Fuller just hit pit road behind John Poole III as well. And it'll be interesting to see now if, with these pit stops, if anyone's going to be within close proximity of Frankenfield. He had about a 3.5 second gap between himself and Henry Bennett when the pit stops began. Be interesting to see if that interval increases or decreases when these drivers finally cycle around. Kisner and Matt Hollabaugh, too, they were some of the first ones to hit pit road. And if my telemetry is correct, I believe they've come off pit road ahead of Chad Frankenfield. So the early pitting actually paid dividends for both of them.
I think for Hollabaugh, this is really where it helped him the most. Ethan Reisner looks like he's about to lose his position just because of how fast Hollabaugh is going. We'll see if Frankenfield's able to make a pass here on Hollabaugh.
Saw Cass Silman hit pit road from the race lead. That's turned the lead over now to Victor Del Porto in the 0-1. Still waiting for him to hit pit road along with Johnny Thomas and Dan Liesch. I believe they still have yet to come to pit road, and I think that should then cycle around everybody to have made their first round of pit stops. So if this is the furthest they can go, we know the fuel window is somewhere between 26 to maybe 34 laps.
Yes, and we're starting to see a battle for what we think might be for the lead of Matt Hollabaugh and Frankenfield. Frankenfield's going to be passing Hollabaugh on the front stretch right now.
Yeah, we're looking here at Johnny Thomas. He's right now the leader, but as you mentioned, this is now a battle for second, which will, soon as Johnny Thomas hits pit road, will turn into a race for the lead. Frankenfield easily making the pass there on Matt Hollabaugh. When Thomas hits pit road, it should turn the race lead back over to the 15. But as you mentioned, Matt Hollabaugh looks like he's going to cycle around into second. Henry Bennett will be in third. So Bennett actually lost a position with Hollabaugh short pitting there.
And this is where the pit strategy comes in. How is pit strategy going to affect these cars? Like you were saying, it was from about 26 to about 34, 35 laps. That's how the fuel or tire window was for these cars. Short pitting looked like it was very successful for Matt. We'll see if anyone else wants to try short pitting or if they're going to stick with their cycle.
I saw his neon blue car on the apron. He just came to pit road a second time, so I'm not certain what the issue was for him. I don't know if he had to serve a penalty or what, but he's now minus 1 lap to the race leader, and he was on the same pit sequence as Hollabaugh was. We're going to show you a special camera that we've got here for these drivers in this race, and we'll be using Matt Hollabaugh for the first look at it. This is going to be our onboard camera for just about everybody in this race. I can find the correct hotkey. That would be great.
Jane Diamatova has disconnected from the server. It looks like after his incident that happened around lap 22, he's decided to end his race soon.
And there you can see now, as we're on board, this is the in-car camera on 02 of Matt Hollabaugh, the Bofana in-car camera. A lot of drivers running in-car cameras that we'll be seeing during the course of the day, and you can just see that little dot up ahead. That's Frankenfield. That's who Matt Hollabaugh is trying to chase down, but right now, just a little under a second and a half behind him. And you've got to think with the fact that Frankenfield came to pit road a little bit later than Hollabaugh did, he's going to have fresher tires longer. Right now, Matt Hollabaw's actually, his last lap was 0.2 slower than Frankenfield's.
And that was the last lap. We're going to see what this current lap was. It looks like this time around it was still close to 0.2 again. Actually, that time around it was 0.5. So Frankenfield,
yeah, it was pulling away again. So after the cycle of pit stops, the way the running order looks, at least for the top 10 right now, you got Chad Frankenfield out in front, Matt Hollabaugh second, Henry Bennett drops to third, John Poole the third, still in fourth, Ben Fuller in fifth, and then the rest of your top 10 currently comprised of Joshua Furr, Vincent Isabella, Cass Silman, Tate Lytle, and Pedro Gomez. Tate Lytle, I believe before the pit stops, was back around the 13th position, and he started this race towards the rear. I believe he started this race from around the 29th position, and he's worked his way up into the top 10. Caution is out for the first time today on lap 39.
Looking around to figure out where this caution was.
And that's not what I wanted to see. Oh, someone had trouble on the front straightaway just ahead of him, it looked like. Yeah, there's a car facing the wrong way. I think that's Richard Hines in the 87.
I'm seeing the 17 car.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly who it was, Jeff Murray. And there was another issue as well. I think there was contact between Murray and someone else. Maybe the 92 car? I don't know who it was. There was another car involved, I'm pretty certain. I think it happened out of turn 4 as well. Just a single car spin. Yep. Wow. Huh. It didn't even look like the car spun off the corner. It just looked like he turned it left and it just went straight and wouldn't go back the correct direction. Take a look and see what happens here, and you guys be the judge. This didn't even look like a spin.
I mean, it was one of those things where took it a little high, might have gotten into the dirty part of the track and just had zero control of the car, went into the wall. Hard hit on the outside and even harder on the inside wall.
I believe that was Kendall Noah Player that he almost came back up in front of. And there you see the race leaders are going to be coming into view. And that's especially why the caution had to come out, as the car was the leaders right there. There's Frankenfield and Hollabaugh splitting them up the middle. Call even for the race leaders there.
And with this caution, we're going to have almost all the cars coming into pit road right now. And Frankenfield is going to be getting out before everyone else. Hollabaug's going to be getting second. A car that lost
the restarts here for this race. Oh, go ahead.
A car that lost a lot of spots here on pit road, though, is going to be Henry Bennett. Looks
now
like
in the 16th position, it looks like.
Might have been an issue on pit road, but he lost a lot of time.
Now, I'm not certain if these drivers have lucky dogs or wave arounds in this race. My assumption is that they probably have possible wave arounds. I don't know if they would do a lucky dog system or not. But in terms of the restarts, we saw them all 3x3 to start this race. All restarts are going to be single file. The way that it works is when the pace car hits pit road, it will be in control of the race leader, which will be Chad Frankenfield, to be the acceleration car. So the ball's in his court, and we know that he was able to gap Henry Bennett earlier and Matt Hollabaugh here after the pit stops. You got to think that with being the one that's going to time when the start begins as far as accelerating, his goal is to open up the distance between himself and second place again.
Yeah, and he's proven that he can do it, and I think he can do it again. Looking back at Henry Bennett and what happened. It looks like he got into his pit box, got a little bit too far backed up, got a little too far backing up, and he was just having issues there at the box, which cost him all of that time, put him down to around 16.
Yep, 16th is where he is going to be restarting. Frankenfield will have Matt Hollabaugh behind him. John Poole, the third, will be third, ironically enough. Ben Fuller in fourth. Vincent Isabella will be restarting in the fifth position. As things stand right now, we have 24 cars on the lead lap. I believe we actually do have lucky dogs in place because I think the 86 of Ethan Reisner just went around to get his lap back, and he was the first car one lap down.
Car we were talking about right before that caution happened, it was Tate Lytle. I think he's really someone we should watch out for. If he has come this far from 28th to 8th, just through these green flag runs, I'm excited to see what he's going to do here, being restarted closer to everyone and just having a better opportunity.
Did not qualify last Friday, so he ended up starting back towards the rear of the field for this race. So patience definitely exemplified by him, as he's been able to work his way up prior to reaching a quarter of the way through this race into the 8th position. And I think that's not only a testament to his patience, but just how fast of a race car he has and how he's been able to approach these particular corners in making passes. Let's see if we can get a quick word here with our in-race reporter, Robert F. Kenny. Hey, Robert, Seth Cole up here in the Flat Out Racing Network booth. You got a moment to talk with us, man?
Yeah, I got a moment.
All right, so it looks like it's been pretty crazy out there, especially around where you've been running, and a lot of passing going on. How is the track right now in relation to what it was when you started out?
It holds grip a bit better, but honestly, the car's a bit tighter than what I expected. So I've been dropping back, and I brushed the wall a couple times. So I probably knocked the wing out. So I'm basically riding around for now.
How is the car as far as in traffic in terms of the runs you guys are able to get on each other?
Oh, in traffic, it's a lot tighter than what it would be in clean air, like most would think. But for me, it's tough to build runs because the car's just even tighter than what it was at the beginning of the race. After I brushed the wall and knocked some wing out of it.
Session gives you the opportunity to be able to be bunched back up here. What are you expecting for this restart? Are we going to see drivers kind of mind their manners again, get themselves into single file formation, or are we going to be seeing drivers maybe be a little bit more aggressive in making passes for position?
I think it's still early enough in the race where people will go single file and just keep their nose clean until about halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through. But yeah, I'm thinking they're just going to stay single file.
All right, well, I know that we're back green and racing here, so I know you want to be going back to concentrating there in the cockpit. So we'll let you go and talk to you later.
All right, have a good.
While we were having that interview with Robert Kenny up front, they were going 3 wide for a second there. They're now all single filed up with caution up happening up front. I believe that could have been. That is Vincent Isabella who
that was
went
Tate
for
Lytle.
A ride.
Tate Lytle is dropping back too. He might have been involved in it. So our second caution of the day. Yeah, there's the 56. Was up against the outside wall. I don't know if maybe he was a follow-up wreck. Boy, I think that car might have hit with the nose, because the nose looks all pushed in.
Yeah, I believe it could have been
13 of Vincent Isabella. Oh, Vincent. Vincent can't even drive that car. And off of 4, he's having difficulty getting that car back to pit road. Look at how that car is skewed the wrong way. That car is facing 45 degrees to the left. That's a lot of suspension damage on his number 13. That was a hard lick, and I don't know if that car is going to be able to get back out there.
Most likely not.
We'll go back and see what happened to him. Tate Lytle, I don't know if Tate was involved in what was involved in or if it was a follow-up. And oh, I believe we had our first driver get airborne in this race. And Vincent Isabella in the 13 car. Little contact there. The wall, and my goodness, that car up and over onto its roof. And I think that was Tate Lytle we just saw going down there on the apron to avoid, and maybe he came back up the track perhaps. We'll go back and see what happened to the 56.
Looks like Tate got tipped and it just flipped his car as well.
That was a hard impact though for Vincent Isabella, and yeah, going airborne, I don't think that car is going to get back out there. Here's Tate in the 56 car. And you'll see the smoke just ahead of him. Oh, yep. Just got clipped in the right rear, and that car up and over. Oh my goodness, end over end. The nose caught the grass, which caused the car to catch even more air and then flew up into the entrance of turn 4 wall. And boy, we were just talking about him. How good of a run he was having, and just like that, I think that's going to be the end of his day.
Up front, you had some cars coming in and some cars staying out. Vic Bloom is going to be staying out, going to be taking the lead. Chad Frankenfield was one of the first people to come in, but there was a cluster of cars that stayed out. Like about 5, 6, 7 cars stayed out.
Cars in total. Aaron Roots was the last of those. Frankenfield's going to be lining up in 7th place on this restart. Get Tate Lytle's car back out there. He's still being scored on the lead lap, but I don't know with the wild ride we saw him take if that car would even be worth trying to fix to get back out there. Vincent Isabella, I believe, has taken his car back behind the wall. And now it looks like Tate Lytle may actually be also retiring in just a few moments. I think his car is still sitting on pit road, but it looks like he will not be continuing as well. And as you stated, some drivers coming to pit road, some drivers not. I would assume those drivers that came to pit road, they're maybe coming to pit road for fuel.
I believe those were cars were lapped down and coming to get their pit stops fueled up and done. Cars that are out right now are cars that are going to be staying up front. Henry Bennett, he's going to be back up front after his incident with pit roads, the last caution. So he's going to stay out, feeling like there wasn't a long enough green flag run for him to come in. Also hoping him get his positions back up front.
Yeah, these drivers only ran about roughly 8 laps, I believe, on that green flag run came out. Yeah, may have been less than that. So Vic Bloom, Carlos Aguiar, Thalos Toledo, Chris Wilhite, Henry Bennett, and Aaron Roos, the 6 that stayed out. I don't think there'll be as much of a disadvantage to Frankenfield, Hollabaugh, Fuller, all those guys behind them in terms of tire rubber. The only thing I would wonder is going into a long green flag run potentially again. That's about possibly 8 laps in the bank that those guys have over these guys that stayed out. And we already know that the fuel window is somewhere in the range of maybe 26 to 33 laps. Be calculating, all right, so if we come to pit road now, then we're able to maybe make it on another 4 pit stops or so.
And Vic Bloom is going to be taking everyone to the lead. Like you were saying, these pit stops with cars coming in and cars staying out, you know, a lot of these cars up front could be just short pitting this time around. Thinking about short pitting because it worked for Matt for the O2. of Hollowbone. We'll see if it works out for these guys up here.
Be interesting to see too, because this is the first time all race that we can really say Chad Frankenfield is having to deal with traffic. Yeah, he had that back and forth early on with Henry Bennett, but for the most part, he really hasn't had to battle his way up to the front. And remember when we talked with Robert F. Kenney in the interview, the in-race interview, he was saying how the car is so much tighter in traffic. And so we may end up seeing Frankenfield encounter that as, look at this dogfight for the lead. That's Carlos Aguiar looking forward in turn 1.
Carlos was trying to make a move into turn 3, didn't get it to work, tried off turn 4, didn't have the momentum, and it's going to be staying in second. Vic Bloom still there, but here comes Carlos. He might be making the move again here in turn 3.
Down to the bottom. Right behind them is Dallas Toledo, who was really fast in qualifying last week, and there's Henry Bennett, who lost a ton of spots under the last caution with a pit road miscue up here in the 4th position. We know he's got a car strong enough to be out in front and lead, and I believe Chad Frankenfield is right on the back bumper of the 6th place car of Aaron Roos, so he's starting to make some moves as well.
All 6 of these cars are wanting to go for the lead, but man, is it too early to be making these moves?
Well, this is the closest that these drivers are going to be on these restarts. So if you're going to pick up 1 or 2 positions before everybody gets spread out, you kind of have to be aggressive. And look at them, 2 by 2 going into turn 3. That's going to be Vic Bloom on the bottom of Aguiar, and then you had Henry Bennett to the inside of Toledo. It looks like they're going to settle it out to single file off turn 4.
Looking throughout the whole entire field, this is where all the action is happening. It's all happening up front with these 6 cars. Side-by-side action for first and for second.
And then you've also got waiting in the wings. You got Frankenfield and Matt Hollabaugh. They're trying to make their way around Aaron Roos, who I think might have just had an issue.
Aaron Roos really slow, went off.
Got the wall or something, because he's down towards the inside of the racetrack.
Yes, he smashed the wall hard in turn 1. Got into the dirty part of the track, and his car kept on sliding up.
And I believe he actually hit the wall trying to get out of the way of Frankenfield and Hollabaugh, who were right behind him. I think Frankenfield was to his inside at the time. Meanwhile, back up front, Carlos Aguiar again hounding Vic Bloom for the lead. And Frankenfield, you see him right back there. He is the 5th car in line, trying to look to the outside of Henry Bennett down the back straightaway.
Honestly, I think the way that Henry Bennett's racing, it looks like he's okay and content with just staying here in 4th. It's a long race, might as well stay here. But Frankenfield looks like he wants to go, and he wants to get back up to the lead where he was all throughout the beginning of the race.
Yeah, Dallas Toledo right now looks like he might have thoughts for 2nd place. Henry Bennett trying to do a little bit of mirror driving there, trying to see which lane Chad Frankenfield wants to take. Right now, the top 6 are single file. You drop back to 7th, which is kind of lost touch. You got a side-by-side battle between John Poole III, Matt Hollabaugh. You got Valmore Earnhardt up here as well in the 9th position, but this is going on just about 0.3 of a second back behind the top 6.
Frankenfield and Bennett are starting to try to make rooms here on Toledo.
That'd be a battle right now for the 4th position. Bennett's going to make the pass. Chad Frankenfield right there as well. And then Chris Wilhite in the 7th. Currently in that 6th position. Frankenfield going to make quick work of the 77. Drop him back to the 5th position.
Let's remember,
And Bennett flows in for a 2nd place battle with Aguiar.
This is going on with 2nd, but Frankenfield does have the freshest tires out of everyone up here up front, with about 6 or 7 laps fresher tires than everyone else.
As we get longer and longer into the run, the fresher rubber, the ability to find grip to be able to make moves is going to be more prevalent for Chad Frankenfield, who can still see the race leader on the same straightaway as he is, so he has not lost touch with Vic Bloom, but I think that we saw Vic Bloom earlier back in traffic seem to be struggling. That strategy seemed to work out quite well for him, because now that he's gotten his car out in clean air, he's been putting down some pretty good lap times.
That he has. If we go back to about 8th position, Got a little bit battle here for 8th.
Back around Matt Hollabaugh, who just lost a spot to Valmore Earhart. Pedro Gomez back behind there as well. Ben Fuller is also there in the 70. A couple of drivers that have indeed taken their cars back behind the wall. Vincent Isabella officially out of the race. They're still showing Tate Lytle. I believe he is still sitting on pit road, but he is 4 laps down currently to the race leaders. Aaron Roofs in the 80 get the wall and have to hit pit road unscheduled. He is now 2 laps down.
Moving back up to 2nd, Henry Bennett trying to make a move on to 2nd on Carlos. Speaking of 2nd, here comes Frankenfield.
They're going 3 wide. Look at that move.
Trying to make it sick. At least gets 3rd, but it's not going to get 2nd. Frankenfield wants to go.
Boy, Frankenfield might have gotten a little loose down there on the bottom. Henry Bennett was the gentleman in that situation, backed out of it. But boy, Frankenfield making some dicey moves there. And now he's all over the back bumper of Aguiar. He wants 2nd.
We just got past the quarter marker of this race, and we're starting to see these guys going 3 wide. I think it might be a little early for these moves, but I think Frankenfield really wants to get up to the lead with these fresher tires.
What he's noticing as well is that John Poole III is in the 6th position. He started making some passes, and I think Frankenfield wants to gap himself from the 20 as much as possible because those two are on the same strategy in terms of tire wear and in terms of fuel. They both were on pit road under the last yellow.
You got the battle for 2nd going on, and Vic Bloom has just slowly been gapping himself. He's now almost a 2.5 seconds ahead of 2nd place.
Which now is going to be in the hands of Chad Frankenfield. He left the door open. Henry Bennett's going to stick his foot in. Tried to take 3rd place away from Aguiar. Could not quite do it as they snaked down the back straight. Look at this outside line run for Aguiar. He wants 2nd place back.
He's out of that dark groove. He's going to touch the wall. He's not, but he's going to keep 2nd. That's super risky.
That was a power move. Man. Flew up into that groove off of turn 1, got into the wall. So I'm shocked that he was able to make that work. But he seems to have a really good car up there on the top side, at least over in turns 1 and 2.
1 and 2, he's got it good. But, I mean, like our in-race reporter of Robert Kenny was saying, these cars are getting tight later on in the run, and it's getting hard to hold it. So we'll see if Carlos is able to hold on the bottom at all during 3 and 4.
He's going to go down to the bottom here, trying to block any run that Henry Bennett might have on him. Good battle heating up here for the 5th position. That was Toledo's got a rear decklet full of John Poole III, who's been able to run down the top 5 pretty quickly.
Henry Bennett making a move on to 3rd on Carlos.
And this is very much like super speedway racing. If a driver gets side by side with another driver, that's going to allow the guys behind him to catch very quickly. So that's going to bring Thales Toledo, John Poole III into this battle as well for the 3rd position. Looking at the lap times here of the drivers up at the front. And currently, Chad Frankenfield is chipping away bit by bit about anywhere from 1/10.5 to 2/10 faster than Vic Bloom.
Another thing we got to watch out for is all the cars that did not pit on the... Oh, boy! Car got loose out in front of 2nd place. Who was that?
I think actually that was Chad Frankenfield that got loose. He was trying to make a move there on Vic Bloom, dove it to the inside through turn 3 and lost a whole bunch of momentum.
Lost momentum, but I think also he was trying to avoid Dustin Durr, who got very loose after having Vic Bloom pass him. Got into the dirt in turn number 2. No, turn number 1. Sorry.
So now Chad Frankenfield's got to try and get his momentum back, and that was something a lot of drivers talked about in qualifying last week was momentum. If you mess up in terms of a lap. It takes you about 2 or 3 laps to recover yet and get back up to speed. So see what Frankenfield's able to do here, how quickly he'll be able to get back in the vicinity of Vic Bloom.
Gosh,
and, well, that'll help him. Third caution. It'll take place here on lap 64. Getting closer and closer to the halfway point. Only our third yellow of the day.
I was just about
find
to
out
chime in that a green flag pit stops was about to be starting up in the next about 8 laps or so. But
Good
with this
point.
caution,
So that takes
everyone's
that out.
just gonna, everyone's got to come in, get some tires.
Well, we'll see if we can find out what this caution was for. I almost wonder if it might possibly have been Dustin Dewar again in the 32 car, because he is currently sitting on pit road as we speak.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Holy cow, we got another car that's gone airborne here. I mean, these cars are so light. And I saw in practice when they were qualifying last week, and we saw it in practice here, just the slightest bit of contact into the wall, slightest bit of contact with each other, and these cars will lift up off the ground. Take a look at this as we are looking at the 32. And he's got, I believe that's Ethan Riesener that was trying to pass him. He tried moving out of the way, got 2 tires down in the grass, and just look how that car lifts up the air into the catch fence and immediately to pit road. But boy, that is the 3rd car we've seen go airborne here today, along with Vincent Isabella and Tate Lytle. And that is scary for a driver.
Cars are coming into pit road. I gotta say that based on all the cars that did not pit on our second caution and had the chance to come in, it really was a win for them because they were about to think about coming in for green flag pit stops. And Vic Bloom might be our biggest winner of this caution because now he's on the same pit schedule as everyone else that pitted on that last time and had fresher tires. Now everyone is going to have the same amount of freshness on their tires.
We'll take a look just to show you what this is like for the driver. We're going to use one of our Bofana in-car cameras on board with Dustin Dewar here and show you just exactly what it looks like to go airborne from the driver's point of view. The car got out of shape. Inside wall, car goes up on its side, and he is just a passenger along for the ride. And at that point, you're just thinking, okay, when's the car going to land? And please land on your wheels, not on the roof.
Yeah, I mean, flying in the sky, you have zero control. You're just seeing the ground, the air, the ground, the air. It is one of the scarier things to be a part of.
So I think we can definitely say kudos to drivers like Vic Bloom, Henry Bennett, those guys that stayed out after our second caution because, as you stated, everybody was getting ready to at least be within the making green flag pit stops. Now, Chad Frankenfield is going to be the race leader, but Vic Bloom's going to get to start second. Henry Bennett's going to get to start third, so they definitely got a net gain out of the timing of that caution.
Yeah, especially with Henry Bennett and the way that he got issues on that first caution in his pit stall. That was not what he wanted to have at all. Having to stay out during the second pit stop and now being up here in third now, it is a huge comeback for him. We're only about 66 laps into this race. Now 67.
Currently, our in-race reporter, I believe, is 1 lap down. Robert F. Kenny in the 40. We're going to take an opportunity and see if we can get a word with him under pacing and see what he thinks of what's going down here in the first half of this race. Cole again up here in the Flat Out Racing Network Studios booth. You got a moment?
Yeah, I got a moment.
Pretty good view of some drivers going airborne here. I mean, that's got to make you feel really good about the possibility of that happening in this race, huh?
Yeah, with the cars going so fast, like over 200, it's easily get a little bit of air underneath them. They go right up into the air like an airplane. But you hope not to see it, but it's an inevitability being in an Indy car.
Now, we saw that you mentioned you were having issues earlier on as far as the handling of the car and traffic. Has there been anything that you personally have been able to do to adjust on the race car, or at least adjust your driving style to be able to counter something like that?
Well, I've tried a few things unsuccessfully. I've basically just been backing off the corners a bit more and then trying to arc them, but I can't get the runs off to keep up, or at least try to even make a pass by the time I get to either turn 1 or 3. So it's really tough right now.
All right, well, we'll let you go and get back to it. I think we've gotten the indication that we're going back green this next time around, so we'll talk.
All right, have a good one.
And we are green. Chad Frankenfield is going to be taking Vic Bloom and Henry Bennett to the lead. And we're going to be going 3 wide with Vic Bloom trying to go for the lead here, going into turn number 3, and Henry Bennett on the bottom.
And you got right behind there John Poole III, seeing which lane's going to move. It's going to be Bennett and Bloom that are going to be the 2 battling for the lead through turn 4.
Must have been the weirdest thing for Frankenfield. He had the lead, and now he's trying to go for it again. 3 wide down the front stretch, cross the line. And it looks like Vic Bloom's going to lead that lap, but is he going to have the lead coming off of turn number 2? Through turn number 4, Vic Bloom's still in the lead.
That's the second time that Henry Bennett's been stuck in the middle 3 wide going into a corner, and he's been the one to back out. I think as this race progresses on and we get closer and closer to the end, if he's stuck in that situation, he's going to say heck with it, and he's going to keep his foot in the throttle.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Kenny said that during our first time we talked to him, that like around the halfway marker, we might see a lot of these guys who've been playing really patient, backing off, get very aggressive, and be trying to get up to the lead.
Down in the bottom, side by side for the lead. Look at Bennett. He might go up the middle into turn 1. Nope, goes back to the bottom instead, backed out of it. But boy, he thought about it. If he had enough momentum, he might have tried 3 wide up the middle.
We have these guys going 2 wide in the lead, and then back to about 6th. We've got people going 2 wide and 3 wide back there.
That's back around the 8th position with Valmer Earhart, Pedro Gomez. They're in the mix there. Ben Fuller's in that as well. Good battling all the way through as to tail. Vic Bloom, Chad Frankenfield. Frankenfield trying to get the run to the top side. Trying to side draft to the line. Not going to lead the lap, but he may get the top position into turn 1. Let's see if he keeps it up there.
He's holding strong right now, but is he going to keep it off turn number 2? It's looking like he might, but Vic Bloom staying strong at the bottom.
By side, Henry Bennett might get a good enough run to maybe look 3 wide to the inside into turn 3. Not quite close enough as he's offering the drafting help into 3 to the top side in Frankenfield.
I mean, Bennett's probably just staying here trying to see what these two are going to do, who's actually going to get the lead. Because usually once they're done being side by side and someone is able to gap them a little bit, they usually just take off.
It was all over the back bumper of Vic Bloom. They're heading into turn 1, ducks it to the inside, can't make it work. Vic Bloom's doing a good job of basically taking away the 15's line. Vic Bloom's running the line he wants to run, and he's saying, if you're going to pass me, Frankenfield, you got to take a line that maybe you're not so comfortable with.
Yeah, we're seeing Vic Bloom trying to snake him down the front stretch and the back stretch. And it's really irritating Frankenfield. He's not really able to get the run that he wants coming into the corners or off the corners.
Down the front straightaway, gets to the outside of Vic Bloom, but he can't follow it up through the center of the corner off. Now he's going to try to the inside going into turn 1. Vic Bloom trying to be careful as he kind of pins Frankenfield down, doesn't allow him to be able to ride it up off the corner and get that momentum down the straightaway. Frankenfield going to try again, though. We got a good battle going on now. The 5th position between Matt Hollabaugh and Carlos Aguiar.
Yeah, these guys are going at it. And then you got, I mean, you have all these different battles up front. And you might be thinking, like, why are they so close? I mean, we just had a restart, so this is their time to make all these moves. We've been seeing on the longer stretches that they start to spread out. So you got to make your moves now before everyone starts to spread out when they're single file.
Able to kind of break away for the moment. Got a little gap from Henry Bennett back to John Poole III. That'll start closing up now, though, as the top 2 side by side again. Frankenfield might have him this time. I think he does. He's going to clear him, I think. Going into this corner, can he come up in front of him out of 4? I think he's got it. Yes, he does. New race leader.
He's got him clear here, but he's going to have him clear going into turn number 1. Not so. Vic Bloom trying to stay strong on the high side. It looks like he might make the pass on the high side. What a power move that was.
Yeah, Vic Bloom, we saw before when Frankenfield tried to make the move to the inside, Vic Bloom was able to hold him off. Vic's got a car that can run that second groove very well and with a lot of speed onto the back straightaway. Frankenfield's going to try the bottom again, and look at Henry Bennett. I think Bennett right now is basically just deciding, okay, who do I want to give the draft to down the straightaways?
Whoa, they got real close there as Vic Bloom sticks it to the bottom, and Frankenfield's got to stay up high.
Still riding there in the 4th position. That's literally what he's doing right now. He is not really closed up on these top 3. He's been the one spectating this battle amongst the top 3 drivers. But as he's doing that, he's got some company on the back door. You got Aguiar, you've got Earhart, Hollabaugh. They're all up there trying to crack into the top 5.
We haven't even hit halfway, and these guys are really going for it now. From where we were at when we were just at a quarter of the way through the race to now, people have just cranked up to 11. I'm going to be interested to see how these guys are racing when we've only got 20 laps to go.
Let's see even more aggressiveness out of these guys. I think these guys right now, at least up at the front, they're racing each other hard, but I'm seeing some daylight between cars. I think we could see cars leaning on each other when we get into the closing stages. Looking here at the 0-4 of... I just went blank. Or Earhart, sorry about that. He's battling here with Aguiar and Hollabaugh, but he's another driver, like we had mentioned with Tate Lytle, who was not in qualifying last Friday, and he's done a pretty doggone good job getting himself up here into the top 10, currently sliding 6th, and we got trouble! Vic Bloom is headed for pit road. I think he may have gotten turned down there, or might have gotten the wall. No caution as he is on pit lane by himself.
Our 1st and 2nd position drivers got together, and they're both in the pit road. Henry Bennett is now in 2nd, and John Poole III is now in 1st.
Whole front end on the nose of the 99 is gone. Chad Frankenfield in the 15, as you mentioned, also on pit road. It looks like he may also have some damage there to the nose of his machine. And as you mentioned, they were running 1st and 2nd, and we got a battle for the lead going on here. John Poole to the top, Henry Bennett to the bottom. These guys were 3rd and 4th 1 lap ago.
Your 2 front runners, I mean, your pole sitters are now out of the race. He's out of it. With how much damage he's got, Vic Bloom, who looked like he had a great strategy, he's now out of it. And we got John Poole III, who's been running in the top 4 all race. Henry Bennett, who's been in the top 4 all race. They're now battling for 1st and 2nd.
Complexion of the race for sure, because Frankenfield, when he was out in front, he was dominating. He also was cutting his way up through the field when he restarted back in 7th on that one time. So we know he had one of the fastest car in the field, and it looked like Vic Bloom may have been the only driver that had a strong enough car to keep up with him. But as you mentioned, both of them now on pit road. I believe Frankenfield is going to try and continue, but that was a lot of damage I saw on both of those race cars, as I'm not certain if Bloom, I think he just narrowly missed the pit road entrance wall. I don't think either of them hit the inside wall, but they both sustained quite a bit of damage. And as we mentioned, the guy that benefited from all that is John Poole III.
John Poole III looks like he's slowly pulling away from Bennett, which then makes our next closest battle for third.
Challenged by Hollabug. Got Ben Fuller back there. He's got a rear deck lid full of Carlos Aguiar. Cass Silman's in that battle as well, so a three-way fight now for the 5th position.
Also, we go back to about 8th. We've got a cluster of cars battling out there.
Gomez. Right behind him, you got Thalis Toledo. Rishev Koslov, first time we mentioned his name today. He's up there in the 10th position.
2 cars we were talking about the most, they're now out of it. So we got all of these new cars that have a chance to win this race. And this is going to get very interesting very quickly.
Such an emphasis on the fact that it's 200 laps, because that is 200 laps that something could happen. And we just saw it there with Vic Bloom and Chad Frankenfield. And just like that, the complexion of this race has entirely changed. 2 of the guys that we probably would have pegged as the favorites to win this race are out of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that aggression we were starting to see coming up to the halfway marker, but we were only halfway there. We were just past the 200-mile marker. And these guys, we still have 500 miles to do. I mean, there's still so much race, and they're both out of it now.
John Poole III closing in there on a slower machine. I believe that is the 0-1, if I'm not mistaken.
That is,
and
83.
one is slightly off the pace. It is. Actually, I believe that is Johnny Thomas, who just made a pit stop. So I think the pit window just opened, and we may see a round of green flag pit stops again. I think Rishev Kosla also was just on the pit road.
So for the next couple of laps, 5 to 8 laps, we're probably going to be seeing people slowly come in. Right now, we have 18 cars. If Johnny Thomas doesn't get lapped, 18 cars that are on the lead lap.
And as of right now, we would have, it looks like, 21 cars that are still running. Cars that are currently off the lead lap. Richard Hines and Aaron Roof, so we still have to make an unscheduled stop. Our in-race reporter, Robert Kenny, currently riding 2 laps down, but he's in the 21st position. And, you know, for a driver that may be struggling here in this race, oh, we have smoke. There was some smoke there in front of the leaders going through turn 4. I don't know if someone was hard on the brakes coming to pit lane or not, but I thought we may actually have a wreck for a moment, as we just had a change for the lead.
Henry Bennett making a move. Earhart's also trying to get up here to battle for the lead. So when things are going to get a
He's
little
run
bit,
all day in 3rd place.
things are about to get a little bit jostled here with cars coming in for the pits.
Waiting to see if other drivers are going to be coming to pit lane here. My assumption is that these race leaders, we're probably going to see them on pit road maybe within the next 10 laps, I would assume.
Also a report, Robert Kenny looks like he was in a spin-out accident that happened that did not cause a caution, but he has heavy damage and he's in pit road.
So that would probably have been the smoke that I saw there out of turn 4. And there you see he is on pit lane. That's going to put him even more laps down now. As Henry Bennett took the lead away from John Poole III, he ran him down past him, and now he's pulling away. John Poole III now is under fire from Earhart for 2nd place. And going back to when we had our first round of pit stops, remember when Hollabaugh came to pit road the earliest of everybody, and he picked up about 2-3 spots on the racetrack as a result. So you got to wonder if that's in the back of these drivers' minds. You know, maybe somebody like Earhart, maybe John Poole III, going to try and jump Henry Bennett to pit road, get the tires sooner, go out there and maybe take some positions away. Because if I recall correctly, Bennett actually lost some spots on the first round of green flag pit stop, staying out longer than some of his competitors.
Yeah, he lost about 2 positions because of Hullabon making that quick stop. But I mean, once everyone did their pit stops, Hullabon started to lose positions because of all the fresher tires. So maybe that stop is not the best choice, but I will gain you a couple positions and wait to see if there's a caution that might help you gain some positions.
And this might be the closest battle we've got amongst the top 10. That's for 7th place. Carlos Aguiar with just a little ways back, about maybe 2 car lengths to the 0-1 of Victor Del Porto. Victor running a much lower line through the corners, and boy, look how he was able to close up really quickly on the back straightaway, and he's going to very easily dive to the inside and make a clean pass for the 7th position.
Yeah, these two have been battling back and forth. It's good to see them still battling it out and keeping it clean.
Pedro Gomez back there in 9th place trying to reel in these guys, and you can see now where drivers are kind of trying to figure out where their car handling wise is able to run. Saw Del Porto way down there on the inside line, whereas Aguiar was not able to hold the bottom. He kind of ran the second groove in turns 1 and 2. So as the run goes on and the tires start to lose grip, these drivers have to adjust their racing line accordingly. And we're starting to see now, with drivers losing grip, they're not able to run down as low into the corners as they would like to.
Grip is something that is hard to find right now just because of the longer run. But if you go back to about 11th, 12th, you got these cars battling up of Danford Lee and Toledo.
And Dan Liesch there, who back in qualifying last week laid down what at the time was a really good lap time, and basically it was the one and done for him. But then we saw drivers, as the cloud cover kicked in, be able to leave that time in the dust, and as a result he started back in the field. But right now, solid outing for Dan Liesch in the 11th spot. That was Toledo right there in 12th. Ended up utilizing pit strategy under the last caution, or actually I think it was 2 cautions ago, to gain track position, and they were actually starting to close in on 10th place Chris Wilhite.
So our last caution was about 20 laps ago. So that means we're about 5 to 10 laps away from green flag pit stops. When do you think, who do you think is going to be the first one to come in?
I'm looking right now at the 2nd place car of John Poole III, because it seemed like as soon as Henry Bennett got around him, he just completely gapped him. And I don't know if that is the fact that
are going to be coming in first ones in right now when we're talking about that.
Well, remember, Matt Hollabaugh used the strategy under the first round of green flag pit stops of coming to pit road the earliest. So doing it again here, realizing that it gained him, I think it was from 4th to 2nd on that the first round of green flag pit stops with coming to pit road early. So he's doing it again. Oh, he overshot his pit stall a little bit there, had to back up. That might cost him some time.
Yeah, that was something I was just about to bring up. You got to make sure on these green flag runs that you actually come in clean with clean pit stops. As our leader, Henry Bennett, is going to be coming in for the pits. John Poole III is going to be staying
Henry
out.
Bennett is... So he's going to give up the lead as Henry Bennett. Interesting there that he decided to come to pit road from the lead, probably learning his lesson from what happened on the first round of green flag pit stops. So now John Poole, the 3rd lap. I believe Joshua Personette has also been on pit road in the last couple of laps. Okay, but he's still on the lead lap, currently in the 14th position. Stays out yet again, as do Silman. Del Porto stays out. Is out. Pedro Gomes stays out. So right now looks like all these guys are not going to come to pit road just yet. There's Kendall Noah Player, Ethan Reasoner. This is a battle that's going on right now for the... Or actually, no, that's not a battle. That's actually Kendall Noah Player letting a driver by. That was a lap down, I do believe, after coming to pit road. But Kendall, no player right now in the 8th position. First time we've mentioned him, so we're starting to see some drivers popping up here as we near the halfway point of this race that we may not have seen in the first 100 laps.
Poole is going to stay out for another lap.
And as of right now, looking at his lap time in comparison to Bennett's lap time, and it looks like John Poole III is running just about 0.2 faster than Henry Bennett, but I'm not sure if Bennett is completely up to speed yet, so we'll see this next time around what the comparison is between the two. But as of right now, John Poole III is gapping Henry Bennett, despite Bennett being to pit road and John Poole not yet hitting pit lane.
It's looking like Bennett is running about 0.6 faster, so he should be gaining on him. John Poole should be
Last
coming
time
in.
7 for John Poole. Bennett with a 41.1.
Should be seeing Poole coming in soon, because he is losing a lot of time by staying out.
We're right now waiting, I believe, for our final 10 drivers, the top 10 runners, to hit pit road. We'll see if John Poole III comes pit road out yet again.
It's a very interesting strategy. I mean, I think he's just trying to stretch it out. We're still coming up to the halfway marker. Still a lot of race, seeing how far he can stretch out these tires and fuel. He is losing time, though, to these fresher tires. But he might be thinking, hey, if I stretch this out, by the time that I get new tires, everyone else is going to have awful tires that I'm going to be able to catch everyone up way faster.
Dan Liesch and Kendall Noah Player have now hit pit road. The one thing I'm also thinking about with John Poole III is he is giving up time to Henry Bennett being out on these older tires. He's going to hit pit road now, but I think what he might have been doing is he might have been trying to stretch it as far as possible. If this thing goes green to the end, that's going to be about, 7 laps that he's going to have over Henry Bennett in terms of how far he can stretch it. And if it comes down to who's got the most fuel in the tank when we get to the closing stages of this race, the ball might be in the court of John Poole III with this pit stop here, with him staying out as long as he did.
Looks like Poole got a clean pit stall coming in. Clean stop. Stillman is going to be staying out, and so will Gomez.
Hit pit road along with John Poole III. I believe Del Porto came in. Will Hite came in, I believe, as well as I believe Aguiar also in the 5. And now Stillman will come to pit lane from the race lead.
And
Follow
so will
him in
Gomez.
as well. Ethan Reisner is going to stay out an extra lap.
And it looks
So
like
if he might try and stretch it to the halfway point or not.
I think what we're going to have to watch and see are these lap times from Poole and Bennett. Who is going to have the faster lap time? And who's going to start catching who?
Just a second. We're just waiting on the 86 to hit pit road. Is going to pit, so that should put Henry Bennett back up in the race lead. To go around here before he passes Ethan Reisner for the top position. But to your point, we'll see what the lap time difference is going to be between Henry Bennett and John Poole III, who right now are both separated by Valmore Earhart in second place.
Earhart did come in with Bennett, so they both are on the same pit strategy.
Matt Hollabaugh looks like he may have picked up a couple more spots again there with pitting early. He's up in the 4th position. Gap right now from first back to second is just a little over... Actually, no. Yeah, just a little under now, 3 seconds.
It's 3 seconds. And I'm looking at the times for John Poole and for Henry Bennett. It is close to about 4/10 was the last time that I saw. It is now less than
Closing.
that. It was that for the
It
one
was
lap.
closing between the two as well.
Because John
John
was
was
making a pass.
faster. It was about 3 seconds when I looked, and now it's about 2.8.
So Poole looks like he's faster.
Plus, with the fresher tires, he will probably consecutively get faster, as Bennett's tires will wear quicker. Plus the fact John Poole third's got about 7-8 laps better fuel than Henry Bennett does. That time looked like John Poole the third ran just about a 10th quicker. Now about 2.7 seconds back behind Henry Bennett. Big gap there from Bennett back to Poole. Not too much of a gap from Poole back to Earhart, but John Poole, since making the pass on Earhart, has recently pulled away. Earhart right now slotted in the third position. And then behind him, you got a good battle possibly brewing there for fourth. Matt Hollabaugh and Ben Fuller. Right now, your top 10 peppered with a few drivers that we may not have spotlighted here today. Victor Del Porto in 6th. Johnny Thomas is now up in the 7th spot. Cass Silman in 8th. That was Toledo's 9th. And right now, Rishev Koslak completes your top 10. As we sit right now, we have a total of 19 drivers still on the lead lap as we are now into the second half of this race.
A little bit of updates. Dustin Durr has disconnected from the race, and so has our in-race reporter of Robert Kenny. Those two have both disconnected from the race and are done.
It's a tough break there for them. As we currently are under green flag conditions, let's have a talk with a guy that I believe has also retired from the race. See if we can get word here with Chad Frankenfield, who we saw have that issue with Vic Bloom at the close the last round of green flag pit stops. It's Seth and Samuel up in the Flat Out Racing Network with you. Got a moment?
Yep.
Hold on a second. There's been a caution.
Is out here for the 4th time after the green flag pit stops. And I mean, we mentioned before how when we got into the second half of this race, how it might be crazy for the restarts. We're about to see one. Very well have been the 54 of Rishev Kosla that may have brought out this yellow flag, as he is dropping on the chart here. Yes, it was. Yeah, he looks like he had an issue off of turn 4. He may have stopped the car before it hit the inside wall, but you can see the front nose, the wing on the left side, all crunched up. So he might have some handling problems there too. And we'll see what happened there, and then in a moment we'll get the interview here with Chad Frankenfield. Why don't we talk with him here? Chad, have you got a moment to talk with us?
Yep.
Well, I mean, hard racing up there between you and the 99 for the race lead. What happened on your end?
It was just net code. I reviewed it. I looked at the replay. Massive net code, actually. Just sucks, man. We really look forward to this race. Felt like definitely the car to beat. Really was just running flawless, and like I said, I really felt like the race was coming to us, and it was really going to be mine to lose as far as making a mistake. Everything is perfect. I mean, I've never had that much fun in a race. The setup's perfect, the weather's perfect, the tire fall is perfect. Really bummed. Let's put it that way. That's how it ended my race.
Having a blast watching you and the 99 side by side going into those corners. It looked like, especially you had a car that really was able to control the draft in terms of getting runs, being able to make moves. But it seemed like once you got down to the bottom of the 99, you just couldn't seem to be able to clear him through the corner.
Yeah, he was doing a good job on that outside lane, which ultimately made it really hard. I was just trying to wear his tires out because I felt like once I was going to be able to, once tire falls came into play, I felt like I was going to be able to get by him. But yeah, I mean it sucks. We did a lot of practice for this race, and like I said, I felt like we were in position to win it. So I guess we'll just have to wait till the next one in the spring.
Yeah, well, obviously a tough break for you, but it was fun to see you up there battling up at the front, and thanks for talking to us. The dejection there in Chad Frankenfield's voice. I mean, yeah, when you have a car that strong and you're able to put it wherever you want to, it can obviously be very deflating. And you could hear it right there with Chad Frankenfield. As we saw the onboard there with Rishav Kolsla, it was hard to tell who the car was that made contact with him, but nonetheless, pretty hard hit into the outside wall. Like it gave him some suspension damage as he hit pretty good with the right front. And he currently is sitting on pit road trying to get repairs done to his number 54. So, interesting strategy here because the leaders all came to pit road. John Poole III won the battle off of pit lane with Matt Hollabaugh second. Henry Bennett, who came into pit lane as the race leader, he's going to be restarting back in third place now.
That he is. It didn't look like he had a bad entry into pits. I think Matt Hollabaugh might have taken just 2 tires, and John Poole got a great start, great runoff through his pit stalls.
Now, John Poole III, this probably was not a caution he would be looking for if he especially was on that kind of fuel strategy of being a little bit better on fuel than Henry Bennett was. Now this kind of puts everybody back on an even keel, and as the lights are out top the pace car, here we go. We've seen the last couple of restarts just how crazy it's been from the front all the way back to the middle and rear of the field. And we are now into the second half of this race, so I think we can definitely say that the aggressiveness is going to pick up as we will be getting the green, it looks like, with 92 laps remaining.
Yeah, Earhart's able to come back up front, and so is Ben Fuller. And Victor Del Porto also is making it up to the top 6. A lot of these guys have been in the top 10, slowly making it up. We've got 18 cars on the lead lap. And the cars are going to be going green here soon.
Any of those 18 drivers out. Yeah, there may be guys back there outside the top 10, but bear in mind, we had the top 2 wreck not moments ago between Vic Bloom and Chad Frankenfield, 2 of the strongest cars of this race. So those guys that may be running back there in 10th, 11th, 12th right now, we could be seeing up 1st, 2nd, 3rd in the closing stages of this race, depending on what happens, especially on these close restarts. See John Poole III starting right up against the outside wall, doesn't want anyone to be able to get to his outside on this restart. Pace car peels off, and we are back underway here at Indianapolis.
John Poole III going to be pulling away with great restart. I think the car for me to watch out for is probably going to be Henry Bennett. He's been in 3rd place watching those 2 cars of Vic Bloom and Chad Frankenfield before they wrecked, and he's just been in a prime territory to just make a pass, make a move, get up front. I think he's just waiting until the last 20 laps to finally make his move.
Well, we know that he's got a car strong enough to pass John Poole III because he did it there before under that last green flag run. But look at this. Hollabaugh all over the back bumper of Poole. That brings Bennett and Earhart into this mix as well.
Hollabaugh has a very strong car. He just sucked right up to Poole, but here comes Bennett on the low side.
Looking 3 wide down the front stretch into turn 1. Who's going to give? Might have to be the car on the outside. It is. John Poole III is going to have to give way. That's going to drop you into a battle for 3rd. No, he'll go to the outside of Bennett for 2nd as Hollabaugh takes the lead.
Bennett usually has been the one that just backs off, and that time he didn't. He stuck it down on the bottom and just kept on chugging away, but now he's going to back off and might even lose fourth because of that.
The top side goes John Poole the third, trying to get to the right rear quarter panel of Hollabaugh. Couldn't quite do it there through turn 3. Now ducks back down to the bottom out of 4. Got a good battle going on for third place as Bennett lost it to Earhart. Now tries to take it back, and look at these guys back here waiting in the wings. Ben Fuller, Del Porto, Silman, they're all up here. The top 7, you could throw a blanket over them.
Earhart goes from third to second, and now is battling for the first, coming off of turn number 2.
2 tires right down there in the white line. Got a car coming off of pit road ahead of these guys. That's the 80. They're going to split him up the middle there. Look at Bennett using him as a pick as he'll go for third on Hollabaugh.
The top 4 have been just dashing from fourth to first, and everywhere they can go, they're just trying to make every move they can. Coming off of turn number 4, who's going to make the move here going into turn number 1?
Gonna pull up to the outside. He's going to get the side draft edge ahead at the start-finish line. Can he complete the pass through 1 and 2? Tries to go down as low as he can to the door of the 0-4. Turns 1 and 2. He might have a good run here off the back straightaway. He might take the lead into 3.
A car that came out of nowhere is Ben Fuller. He went from 5th to third place, and he might even be going here for first.
He was kind of just riding, waiting to see what was going to happen. Then he decided it was go time. He's up in the 3rd spot, and he's looking for a move here on the top 2.
Now, honestly, anyone in the top 8 right now can just make a move and just charge with how good the runs they've been getting off of turn number 4.
Got some other players up here as well, just hanging on to this draft. Johnny Thomas back there in the 83. Thalos Toledo in the 77. They're in 8th and 9th place. I think Fuller might have just brushed the wall there off of turn 2.
He might have brushed the wall, but he's still staying strong, staying right on the bumper of Poole.
This is looking a lot like what we saw happen before, too, when Frankenfield was trying to get the good run down the straightaway, but he couldn't follow it up in the corners. Now John Poole, slingshot to the inside for the lead.
How long are they going to stay this close and battling this strong? We still have a lot of racing to go.
I said this back on Friday during qualifying. The only guy that's in this field that I've had any experience with is John Poole III, and this is just like deja vu, watching him up here battling for the race lead. Now he's going to have his hands full. To the inside goes Earhart. He's going to take the spot, and now Fuller, this might be his opportunity to pounce for second.
Fuller now going for second here, going into turn number 1. He's trying to put a bumper there, and he might be able to make the move. Is he even going to go for first here? Not close enough for first, but is going to get second. Poole might be trying to make a little side pass. No, he's just going to stay there in third.
That may have not been as close as it looked, but it looked like Fuller almost came up in front of John Poole III, and I think Poole may have cut him a little bit of slack. That almost looked like that could have been a wreck for second place. Look at Henry Bennett. I was kind of wondering where did he go. He was back in 5th. Now he's going around the outside trying to take 4th away from Matt Hollabaugh.
It's that momentum we were talking about. Ben Fuller came in and he took these positions about 4 laps ago, and it made Henry Bennett lose all of his momentum, and now he finally got it back, and he's slowly trying to make the move up.
Cass Silman, the only times we've talked about him so far in this broadcast is when he has stayed out during green flag pit stops, but he's showing he's got a car that can contend up here, trying to battle for 5th place with Hollabaugh. May have gotten a little wide there off of turn 2, but now uses the run, tries to get to the inside going into turn 3. He's there. Let's see if he can complete the pass.
We got that battle going on, and then we also got the battle for third with Henry Bennett trying to make a move on Poole, but not able to. Poole's going to pull away.
Sideline's going to keep the 5th position. That opens up the door up top side for Victor Del Porto. He's trying to take away 6th away from Silman, and there is the 83 of Johnny Thomas in the mix here as well. He's in the 8th position.
All these cars battling it up. Here's the thing, only the top 5 get a little bit of prize at the end of this race. Put a little bit of money at the end of it.
Exactly right. So you may end up seeing just as good a battle for 5th place in the closing stages as you do for the race lead. Right now, race lead is firmly in the control of Valmar Earhart, but Ben Fuller looks like he is slowly reeling in that 04 car.
Slowly doing so, but they're also pulling away from 3rd place. This is something that we see on these restarts. You have about 5 to 6 laps to really make a move until they get all finally spread out into a line and you start to see the leaders pull away from everyone.
Ben Fuller has spent most of this race running around the 5th position, but you can see as we are on board with the Bafana in-car camera how he is closing up the gap visually. That 04 is getting bigger and bigger out the wind. Well, these cars don't have windshields, but out the front of this race car. Gap now is cut down to just a little under half a second, about 4/10 separation, and not too far behind them is John Poole III. So the top 3 kind of got spread out from each other. They could accordion back up, and we could have ourselves the battle for the lead momentarily.
That last lap, John Poole III ran the fastest lap, running basically a 10th faster than the top 2 up front. But he's still a second behind, and I don't think he's going to be able to catch Poole. Poole's going to catch Fuller. But we'll see how this runs through.
The third would love to see Earhart and Fuller battling for the race lead because that would allow him to be able to close in. He's also got a little bit of draft there as well because not too far behind him is Henry Bennett. So you got to wonder if that might be playing into John Poole III laying down the lap times he is. Almost a little bit close enough to be able to do a 2-car draft. A total of 18 drivers still on the lead lap. The last of those is Kendall Noah Player, who I believe, I can't tell if he lost the draft or if he's off the pace, but his lap times are slightly slower than some of these other guys. So I think he might have had damage from a previous incident or something like that, or else he lost the draft. Right now it looks like we've got about 17 drivers that are up to speed, and there's only about, and this may seem like a lot for people, but there's only about 10 seconds separating the top 18, or top 17. That's actually not that big a margin.
No, that's about the straightaway differs between everyone. Looking around
and at the battle for the lead, and it looks like the interval that Fuller had been able to close up between himself and Earhart started to go away. I think Earhart realized Fuller was closing in. I've been seeing him doing a lot more snaking on the front and back straightaways, breaking the draft, not giving Fuller the opportunity to be able to get the suck up and draft up to him.
Yeah, it looks like Earhart is slowly pulling away. And it looks like all the action of people being as close as possible is in the middle of the pack. But no one's really passing anyone. I think people are starting to realize, hey, there's still a little bit of race. Let's not completely ruin our car now.
Like pit stops on the horizon as well. We went back green on lap 109. So if the calculations that we based off of our first round of green pit stops or anything, we should see drivers on pit road maybe within the next 10 to 12 laps.
I'm expecting to see the O2 being one of the first people we come in. He's been short pitting almost every single time the flag run.
Yep.
And we also might be seeing the 70 of Ben Fuller come down as well. Those are the two that short pitted the last time. They might do it this time around, but who knows?
Ben Fuller indeed is one of the first ones to hit pit road as far as short pitting this time, because most other times we saw him do it, he was running around the 5th position. Now he's in 2nd place, and maybe getting the fresher tires, laying down a quicker lap time could be the difference between him taking the race lead away from Earhart or not.
I mean, a lot of these short pits have been working out for everyone here. They short pit. Once everyone's pitting, about the time that everyone has pitted, there's caution that comes out. And so the guys that have fresher tires aren't able to catch up with people that short pitted.
Now let's just say like the round figure that these drivers can make it to is about 30 laps in total. If we see drivers come to pit road around lap 130, that would say to me that these drivers are going to have to pit at least 2 more times in this race. And I don't know what the furthest they can go is. So if we calculate them maybe pitting lap 130, we add 60 laps on, that's 10 laps short. Would somebody be able, do you think, to save 10 laps of fuel somewhere along the way between 2 pit stops?
If you're the back car in a draft, you're saving fuel by doing that. Also, if you're letting off a little bit more in the corners, but still keeping with the track, you're saving a little bit of fuel. Saving 10 laps worth, that's a little drastic, and I don't think anyone can unless you have a huge lead where you're able to save that much fuel. But I'm guessing that people are going to try to stretch it as far as they can. Being in the draft, working together, trying to save fuel that way is the best thing to do.
If you're someone like Earhart, Ben Fuller, you're not able to save fuel because you don't have the aid of someone ahead of you to be able to draft off of. But I look a little bit further back here at someone like maybe Henry Bennett. He's been able to keep John Poole III about 3 car lengths ahead of him. We're looking here at Hollabaugh, not too far behind him is Victor Del Porto. He could maybe be able to get a little bit of a draft. So some of these guys, if they're able to stretch it a little bit further, especially here on this round of pit stops, they could very well be looking on maybe making it the rest of the way on just 1 more pit stops, while I would think the majority of the leaders would have to come to pit road at least twice before this race is over.
I feel like 2 pit stops is the minimal for these guys, just because you have to pit at least twice, just based off of tires as well. A lot of these guys are going to be flying once they get 2 pit stops.
That's a good point too, yeah. Especially if you think about the fact, okay, let's say that there is 10 laps that you can save. That's 10 laps that someone on fresher tires is able to eat into your race lead, and that could be pretty drastic in terms of how quickly they could do it. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. As of right now, though, so we're looking at John Poole III there in the 3rd position. Henry Bennett not too far behind him. I was kind of surprised that Henry Bennett didn't work his way on that restart up to the front of the field, because it seemed like before, when that last caution came out, he got past John Poole III, he pulled away, and it looked like he might be our new forefront driver to maybe look at in winning this race. But since being back in traffic, that car just hasn't quite looked like it has the same speed it did earlier.
I mean, like I was saying, I think he just might be waiting until about 20 laps to go to finally make his move. He's looked like he's one of the fastest cars out there. John Poole's also looked like he's one of the fastest cars, and these two are together right now. I feel like they're just waiting until about 20 laps, and that's when we're going to see a lot of these guys pushing it as hard as they can.
I believe we just had someone hit pit road. Might have been Joshua Personette. No, it wasn't. Somebody just went down on the running order. I don't know if they just... Yes, it was. Yep, you're right. Carlos Aguiar, the first one to hit pit lane, and I believe he was running just outside of the top 10. Might have been in the 10th position, actually. So the window is open now. We're going to start to see drivers start to come to pit road. Most of them will probably be targeting somewhere around lap 135, because we went back green on lap 109. Some drivers, though, might go with a shorter pit stop here, especially with the fact, to your point, they more than likely are going to have to pit 2 more times, and regardless of if you pitted now or if you pitted in about 7 laps time, you're still going to have to pit 2 more times.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the O2 being one of those people that were short pitting, but the person on our last green flag run that short pitted the earliest was actually Johnny Thomas. He was the one who short pitted the quickest, the soonest, I should say, 8 laps before the leaders did. And then with 5 laps before the leaders did, that's when the O2 came in. So we'll wait to see when some of these cars are going to come in, because it's in the next about 8 laps we're going to see people starting to hit pit road.
There's Johnny Thomas in the 83 car, and there you can see in the 8th position, started 19th in this race. He was as far down as 28th, and he's starting to reel in past Silman potentially for the 7th position. The one thing I would kind of wonder, especially getting into this long run with pit stops just on the horizon, we're seeing drivers start to reel in other drivers, but I don't know necessarily if you're going to risk on old tires trying to make a path for position unless it's on the straightaway. And we just had the race leader come to pit road. Earhart gives up the lead to Ben Fuller, so interesting there that the rides to throw down the gauntlet of starting these green flag pit stops.
I mean, the sooner you pit, the sooner you're going to think that these guys are going for 2 stops. People that are staying out a lot longer are probably going to be trying to push it to maybe a 1-stopper or maybe a 2-stop with a 1-stop and then a short pit. Never know how these guys are going to be putting their pit strategies in with these long green flag runs.
So now Ben Fuller inherits the race lead. And this, I think, at least right now, would play into the favor of Earhart getting the fresher tires. And he might end up having an even bigger gap between himself and whoever is second place when the pit stops cycle around. A couple other drivers just hit pit road, Dan Liesch and Pedro H. Gomez. They were running in 10th and 11th at the time. So they are now on pit road. Doesn't look like anybody from our top 5 are going to come to pit road just yet.
So far, right
and as soon as I saw from the top 10 just hit pit road. That was Toledo.
Toledo's coming in. We have 17 cars on the lead lap. Right now
we do. I think a couple of them just went a lap down with coming to pit road. Aguiar, Gomez, and Esch, but they will probably cycle back around on the lead lap after the pit stop cycle.
With all these people that are coming in with pits, you got to think lap traffic for some of these leaders. Brandon Poole and Bennett dealing with traffic in front of them. The traffic's probably going to have fresh tires, so they're able to take off. But for a second there, it was a little tricky seeing all these cars trying to get up to speed.
First here on this round, but he was, at least for the top 5, one of the soonest. Matt Hollabaugh on pit road there in the 0-2, giving up the 4th position. It's like it was a 2-tire stop.
Ben Fuller is now coming into the pits. And
we'll turn the race lead over to Henry Bennett.
Henry Bennett got past Poole, and those two are going to be staying out.
I believe Fuller is the only driver, at least up here, of the lead lap cars that has come to lap. So we'll wait to see when Henry Bennett and John Poole III come to pit lane. Victor Del Porto now moves up into the 3rd position, and I have a feeling Cass Silman's going to probably stay out an extra lap than everybody else. He's done it the last couple of times we've had a round of green flag pit stops. Or at least are going to stay out yet another lap. I mean, if these drivers are going to be able to make it on one more pit stop, would probably have to make it at least a lap 140. Because we know they can make it at least 30. At this point, these guys here are out for their, I believe it would be their 28th lap. So if they can make it 30 laps, if they can make it to lap 140, they could make it on one more pit stop.
That might be the number that everyone's looking for.
For second place as this is going on, John Poole III, gap between himself and Del Porto is getting smaller and smaller. And this is going to probably help the 0-1 because he's going to be in the draft of the 20, help him save a little bit more fuel.
I mean, Bennett also could be staying out here a lot longer than everyone else because he was behind Poole for this whole entire green flag stretch. He wasn't really trying to pass him, just hanging around. Once Bennett got past Poole, he just took off like a rocket and got almost a second, a little bit less than a second gap on each other.
Very good point. Joshua Personette has now hit pit road. Here comes John Poole the third to pit lane. Johnny Thomas right behind him as well.
Also Ethan Riesener is going to be coming in.
We're on lap
Well,
1.
Michael Goodman just went around. Not a caution, though. But he's going to tow himself into the pit road. He got loose, looked like off of turn 4, spun it around. Luckily, there was not a caution that came out. So we are still on our green flag runs.
Right during the round of green flag.
That could have been terrible for Ben Fuller, who is a lap down.
And I believe Chris Wilhite's coming in as well. Right now, I'm looking at this guy, race leader, Victor Del Porto, because he is going to come around. If he pits even this lap, he will have pitted at the conclusion of lap 140. He's proved right now that he is going to be able to go at least 31 laps on one tank of fuel. So with him going 31 laps, he should be able to make it the rest of the way on one more pit stop now.
Victor, he started the grid in 27th, now in the lead, now coming into the pits. He might be trying to do that one more stop.
Cass Silman's there as well, and I would wonder about guys like John Poole III, as well as Johnny Thomas. I mean, they were right on the cusp when they came to pit road, so they might have enough to be able to make it on one more pit stop as well. I'd be a little concerned if I were maybe Matt Hollabaugh coming as soon as he did. I mean, we don't really know the full extent of how it can go. Let's assume that Del Porto and Silman went the furthest they can go. If that's the case, then they were able to make it 31 laps on one tank of fuel.
Right now, Silman is still out there. Silman is slowly getting on track. So is Victor.
Lead is exchanged over to Earhart. And it looks like Matt Hollabaugh is going to now cycle into second place with Alice Toledo in third. So the top three changed a little bit since the green flag pit stops began. And again, Matt Hollabaugh was one of the first of the top 5 to pit under this green flag pit stop cycle, and he cycles to the second position. So he has, I don't know if it's necessarily the way he's approached pit road, being able to aggressively entry and get down to pit road speed, or what it is, or if it's just the fresh tires he gains with his early pit stop, but he has been the guy who has been able to gain positions on pit stops.
I think it's the fresh tires with how long that some of these guys are staying out and how early he comes in. He gets about 3 to 4 laps of fresher tires where he's just gaining about a second or two on these guys, which allows him to get a position or two after the cycle goes through. But when the cycle fully goes through, all these guys that do pit, they now have fresher tires than him, and he could lose some of this time. Earhart is another person who pit early who could be someone to watch out for, but he's got a 6-second lead on second place.
Yeah, the lap times are somewhat similar between both Earhart and Hollabaugh, but as you mentioned, the gap between the two of them is over 6 seconds. Earhart is another driver that we might have to be looking at in terms of can he make it on one more pit stop, because he was the driver that came to pit road the soonest of all the race leaders. So whether he would be able to make it on one more pit stop or not would be a little bit questionable. And of course, you know, we're doing all this speculation about fuel strategy and who can make it on one pit stop, who can't, who's going to be just short. If a caution flag comes out, all that strategy is completely out the window.
That it is. Right now, our closest battles are for fourth through sixth. These guys are right on top of each other. Also, updates on cars that are out. Rishal Klosla has disconnected from the race, and so has Michael Goodman.
Klosla, of course, having that earlier damage after getting into the wall, and Goodman, as you mentioned, had that spin off of turn 4 right in the middle of pit stop. So we now have a total of 18 drivers still running in this race. 16 of them currently scored on the lead lap. Kendall Noah Player is 1 lap down, and Aaron Roofs is currently 3 laps down to the race leader. Looking at this battle, as you mentioned, for the 4th position, Got John Poole the third, Henry Bennett, and Victor Del Porto all within the same vicinity of each other. This is going on way back from the top three, but and Del Porto, I think, are the guys that right now I think could make it on fuel. Bennett would be the one that'd be the question mark.
I think Bennett showed that if you're able to stay in the draft, you're able to save some fuel. I think that's where he wants to stay, is right behind Poole. That's where he's been practically all race since we've passed the halfway marker. He's just been directly behind Poole, just logging laps, waiting until it's his time to go. But they might want to have to take off sooner, being about 9 seconds behind the leader. And if this race continues, I don't think they're going to catch the leader.
I think they're going to catch the leader, but the one thing I would kind of wonder about, as we're seeing right here, Bennett's not making a pass on Poole, and Del Porto's not making a pass on Bennett. Right now, in terms of the drivers that look like they could make it on one more pit stop, we're looking at the front runners in Poole, Bennett, and Del Porto, because Earhart, Hollabaugh, and Toledo, they all came to pit road sooner than these guys did. So I'm not necessarily certain if for these guys they would be that worried about the gap between themselves and the top three, because I think they're still a little bit in conservation mode, making sure that they can make it to their target lap, which I think right now would be somewhere around lap 170.
I think conservation mode is kind of what everyone is on at the moment, just trying to save their fuel so that they can survive it to the end. Some of these guys, like you're saying, pit sooner than other people that were around lap 140. So I think right now, if we stay green, we got to watch until we get around lap 170. Whoever pits before that might have to pit again, and whoever pits after 170 we know is good to the go.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at guys like Del Porto and Silman, they were the two that stretched it the furthest on that long run. But Del Porto was able, it looked like, to get into the draft of John Poole the third for a little bit. He might have been able to save utilizing the draft. So I think that we are shooting for 30 laps, which would be 170. So if we see anybody hit pit road sooner than that, I think we have to assume that they could be anywhere from maybe 1 to 2 laps short before the scheduled distance end of this race. Right now, it's got to be a very difficult position for someone like Earnhardt, because he's out in front. He's got himself a huge gap, but at the same time, there's really no opportunity for him to be able to save fuel. So I think his goal right now is to gap himself as much as he can, so that way he'll be able to come to pit road. And if he ends up, say he is short on fuel, maybe he can save a little bit and not lose ground to those guys that can make it on fuel. I mean, kind of between a rock and a hard place if he cannot make it to lap 170.
Yeah, it's honestly a waiting game at this point. Not enough cars are close to each other. Turn number 4 has been where a lot of cars have been getting eaten up by the wall. Who's going to survive this little bit of the race? We're at the 150 marker. These guys have been racing for a long time. I mean, we've been staying focused for this long. There's still 50 laps to go. Who's going to survive these last 50 laps?
Kind of a little bit of a case of where did he go? Ben Fuller was up there inside the top 5 when that last round of green flag pit stops took place, and he's now mired back in the 12th position. So I don't know if he had maybe a little bit of issue getting into his pit stall there or something, but obviously something happened between the beginning of those pit stops and the conclusion of those pit stops, because he is no longer up there inside the top 5.
Yeah, something happened to cause all that.
Here, try and see if we can find ourselves a battle, but to be honest, right now, I don't think there's really any battles going on track. I think everyone's got their own agendas set. We may end up having a battle here for third, because as John Poole III, Henry Bennett, and Victor Del Porto have all been running nose to tail, they have been slowly reeling in the 77 of Thales Toledo. So that might be where we could see some drivers making some moves for position potentially. As Henry Bennett right there ran a much lower line through 1 and 2 than John Poole III did.
I'm wondering when this pack of 3, when they do catch Toledo, if they're going to try to pass him or just add him to the group of just trying to keep that fuel, save the fuel, and where is that going to leave you?
Poole III is not happy with the fact he's the one leading this group because he's the one that's not being able to save as much fuel. If he gets up there to Thales Toledo, I think you've got a great point. He may end up using the 77 to be able to ride behind and save a little bit. The only thing I would be a little bit worried about is, though, the closing rate between himself and Thales Toledo. Would it be too much for him to be able to back off enough to be able to get in behind the 77, or would he have to use the momentum to be able to make a pass? Would he have to pass that car to avoid running him over?
I think passing him and seeing if Toledo can somehow merge in with the group is the best option here, because you cannot slow down right now to just add him in. He's got to join in the back somewhere. And it looked like Toledo went into the pits.
And so too did Earnhardt. So this is way short of the goal lap that we had for these guys. It was about 16 laps short of that goal line. So, this is very interesting with them coming in this soon. I didn't exactly expect them in this soon. I thought maybe we'd see these guys maybe come to pit road somewhere around lap 160. This is much earlier than I expected them to come to pit lane.
Well, now if they're pitting this early, maybe they think they can make it last, or they're trying to do another short pit to maybe get as much speed as they can, try to get fresher tires so they can make a move later on in the race. I don't know, but this seems way too soon to be coming in.
And the good news for Earnhardt was he had such a huge lead over second place at the time that I think he's still going to come out of pit road on the lead lap. That was Toledo, not so lucky. He's going to be trapped a lap down. So if everybody else can't make it on fuel, this would work out perfectly for the 0-4. But right now we're looking at Matt Hoppe when he's going to hit pit road. He was on pit lane, I believe, about 3 or 4 laps sooner than John Poole III and Johnny Thomas were. So we'll see if that's going to hold true when he hits pit lane.
I think for the 0-2, we might want to try to come in around 65 if you can push it that far. And maybe you can save enough fuel from there. We know that these cars can make it to at least 30 laps, and maybe he can make it to 35 if he saves some fuel.
Third place, he has kept himself within close proximity of John Poole III. Victor Del Porto seems to move up, and then he kind of falls back a little, and he moves back up. But Bennett has consistently remained about 3 car lengths back behind John Poole III. So right now, maybe the guy in the catbird seat potentially. We know that Del Porto stayed out an extra lap further than Bennett did on the last green flag run. But right now, I would say Bennett, at least in terms of track position, and with the aid of having the slipstream of the 20 in front of him for all these laps, looking like this could very well be his race to lose if it comes down to a fuel strategy race.
Yeah, I think Bennett's in a really good spot. He's running in third, right behind Poole, able to save that fuel, like we've been saying. And if you're the car behind, you don't have to be on the throttle as much as the other guys. The draft is really pulling you along, and so he's able to save up fuel compared to the person who's leading, which that would be John Poole. Poole is using way more fuel than the guys behind him. So you know John Poole's just using all the gas he's got, but Bennett right now could be saving to last even longer.
These guys are about 12 laps away from the target lap that we basically have set here, which would be lap 170. And I think they would have to at least make it to lap 170. I think they could complete lap 169, come to pit road, because the furthest they think that they can stretch is 31 laps potentially. Especially these guys back here that might be utilizing the draft to save just a little bit more fuel. So they might be able to make it as far as they did on the last green flag pit stop cycle, which was 31 laps. But right now, I think we basically have to base it off of when John Poole III comes to pit road, because if I remember correctly, I think he came to pit road about 2 laps earlier than he would have had to if he would stop.
Believe you're right.
See right there, that is a pass not for position. That was Dan Liesch actually making a move on Victor Del Porto. Right now, Liesch is running in the 13th position, first car 1 lap down. He has been to pit road, so you can see the difference there between the older tires and the fresher tires.
Liesch could actually make this a little interesting if he's able to get in front of Poole and help Poole for a couple of laps. That might save him enough fuel for maybe a lap, and just 1 lap is so much help for the long scheme of things, because these fuel strategy races, you're pushing your car to the max. You could run out on the last corner, and just having that little bit of fuel could really help.
Lap 161, and Matt Hollabaugh has hit pit road in the 0-2, so that, according to the calculations, would put him short of making finish without the aid of 1 more pit stop. So now all eyes are on the 20 of John Poole III. Can he make it 9 more laps? I think if Henry Bennett was smart, he would let the 9 by. Dan Liesch is much faster. Looks like he's going to move out of the way. And now we'll see, to your point, if Dan Liesch makes the pass here on John Poole III. Is John Poole III going to have enough tires to be able to keep up with Dan Liesch and utilize him to be able to get some draft and save some fuel?
Here comes the pass. Will Poole be able to stick it here and stay? It does not look like it. I mean, that speed difference.
Well, those fresh tires definitely kicking in.
Yeah, even if you're in a line of 3 cars, it's just not enough.
Now, if these drivers are not able to make it on fuel, we would then have to concentrate the battle back between the 0-4 of Velmer Earnhardt and Matt Hollabaugh. And right now, Earnhardt is running in 10th, Hollabaugh is back in 12th. So right now, if these drivers cannot make it the rest of the scheduled distance on fuel, then things are looking very good for Earnhardt. However, remember, Earnhardt, I believe, would have to make 1 more pit stop before this race is over.
Yeah, he pitted around 153. So he would have to come in at least 1 more time. There's no way that he can save that much fuel. And let alone the tire difference, he would lose so much time.
There's 13th place Thales Toledo making the pass on both John Poole III and Henry Bennett. He had already been to pit lane.
Poole losing a lot of time.
Looked like Bennett thought about... Yeah, Bennett looked like he might be going for a pass here.
3 wide.
3 wide now.
This is risky with the way these tires are to go 3 wide now. Bennett's going to be on the high line, and he's going to keep second.
Poole.
Bordeaux is going to go
low.
into
I
first.
think he might have done that on purpose. I think Poole stepped out of line on purpose, let them be able to take him 3 wide because he wanted to get to the back end of this threesome to be able to save some fuel. He's been the one leading this trio for the majority of this run.
Well, now he's going to be behind these guys for a couple of laps, and can he save enough fuel to pit when everyone else here pits?
So now they just completely reversed the running order of where they were. It was Poole, Bennett, and Del Porto. Now it's Del Porto, Bennett, and Poole, the way they're lined up. Del Porto has had the aid of being 3rd in the line for most of this run, plus the fact, too, that he was one of 2, himself and Cass Silman, who went the furthest on fuel on the last green flag pit stop cycle.
Bordeaux, again, he
His laps away.
Bordeaux started in 27th. He's now in 1st. He's having a great run so far.
Yes, he is, and if he can reach lap 170, or even the conclusion of lap 169, that could very well be the difference between him being in the running for this victory and him not being able to make it on fuel.
We got to look also at where these top 3 cars are running, and where the O2 is, and where Earhart is. Earhart, he's going to have to pit at least one more time. These 3 up in the lead, we're guessing, they're coming up to their last pit. So is there enough time for the 04 of Earhart to get the lead and hold it if he needs to pit one more time? And if not, does the 02 have enough time to save up enough fuel to somehow win this in fuel strategy?
Right, because Hollabaugh came to pit road, about maybe 5-6 laps after Earnhardt did. So if he does have the opportunity to save some fuel, he would have the track position on Del Porto, Henry Bennett, John Poole III. And if he would have the fuel to be able to make it, then yeah, that could definitely put Matt Hollabaugh up there in the forefront of someone to watch for in the closing stages.
The only problem for Hollabaugh right now is that there is no one around him. He has 0 draft help to allow him to save fuel in any way. So he's got to save it on letting off a little bit more than guys, and all of the strategies of slowing down instead of being in the draft.
Ben Fuller making a pass there. That'll put him back on the lead lap, so that'll put 12 cars on the lead lap currently as he gets around Del Porto. We look back here, there is Earnhardt right now in the 8th position as he's headed for turn 3. Matt Hollabaugh, you can see just how far back he is. He was just then going through the middle of turns 1 and 2, so he's got a long ways to go to catch up to Earnhardt. So yeah, maybe the only opportunity he has is maybe to best Earnhardt on fuel, but I think we stated he was, about 9 laps short of lap 170, and you said it was basically impossible to save 10 laps. I would think it'd be the same to try and save 9 laps.
John Poole goes in the pits, but he slides into his pit stall, has to back up a little bit. That will cost him some time.
Certainly will. That puts him right on the bubble. Completion of lap 169 with him coming to pit road.
So we're going to start to see a lot of cars coming in, cycling, get their last pit stops here.
I would assume, too, that John Poole III came to pit road as early as he did compared to Del Porto and Bennett, with the fact is, as we mentioned, he was basically the lead car when those 3 were lined up for a majority of that run. So he probably was not able to have the benefit of saving as much fuel as the 01 and the 12.
Yeah, and Porto should be the one that stays out here the longest out of those 3 cars that were drafting together. He came in a lap later than everyone else and also was all the way in the back for most of that run. Silman's
Here's
coming
Bennett
in
in second and third. Yeah, he's
Johnny
going to come to pit
Thomas.
road. He stayed out as long as Del Porto did, but this last run, I don't think he had the aid of draft like Del Porto did.
Chris Wilhite's coming in, which puts Earhart now in third, waiting for the top 2 to finally come in for their final pit stops.
As of right now, I think Earnhardt, I think right now he would love to see a caution, because a caution would then probably have him up in the race lead and everybody would be good to go on fuel. Right now, if my calculations are correct, he could be so. Oh, there's it is. Wow. Right on cue.
And the front 2 just went into the pits when that came out.
Wow.
Where does
that was the last thing Del Porto wanted to see.
Oh no, it was the number 77 I saw on his roof.
That was Toledo going to bring out this 5th caution, and it will be with less than 30 laps to go, right in the middle of what could have been a fuel strategy race. And now the window's open. Everyone can pit now, and they should be good to go to the checkers. But bear in mind, all these guys, they're not safe yet, because we're going to have ourselves yet another restart.
Another restart, and we've seen these restarts for the first about 6 to 8 laps are crazy. Everyone's shuffling to just get to the lead, get as far up as they can. And we'll see who comes out in front now.
Wow, I think that was what you call a block gone wrong. was a battle, I believe, between Thalos Toledo and Ben Fuller, which actually was for position. Both drivers had managed to race their way back onto the lead lap, and let's take a look at this going down the front straightaway. Fuller makes the move to the inside. Thalos Toledo tries to block him, and wow. Not sure how he thought that block was going to work, especially getting as close to that inside pit wall as they were. But no doubt about it, Thalos Toledo.
That one's probably going to be going up to race control, and it's going to be talked about.
I definitely would agree with you on that.
Now, this makes things very interesting for everyone that just pitted. For Bordeaux, Bennett, Poole. I mean, some of these guys just came in. We're going to see where everyone lands here on out.
On the lead lap, so they'd be able to stay out. Probably Earnhardt would probably come to pit road along with Hollabaugh. So they would start back behind those guys. So the caution is going to probably gain Del Porto, Bennett, Poole, Silman next position. The question is, though, are they going to have strong enough cars to hold off Earnhardt and Hollabaugh, who have, at least for the moment, looked like maybe the two fastest cars on the racetrack?
Speaking of Earnhardt, something happened coming out of pit road, which caused him to spin out, lose some time. He also got an EOL. So something went on during
restarting.
pit road.
He'll either be restarting back in 10th where they have him scored, or if he has to serve that EOL, he'd be back around the 12th, 13th position, it looks like. Dogs, I believe Joshua Personette would be put back on the lead lap, which would give us 14 cars still on the lead lap here. Looks like Kendall Noah Player is going to stay out and take a wave around. As you're looking there at the race leader, Victor Del Porto. So we know that John Poole III has had a pretty strong car during the course of this race. Bennett, we know, has had a strong car during the course of this race, but really, if we look at the race so far for Del Porto, we've seen him in a fuel conservation type mode. He's stayed out numerous times, the furthest of anyone during green flag pit stops. On that last run, we saw him basically riding third in a 3-car train trying to save fuel, so we don't really know the strength of Del Porto's car in relation to other guys like Bennett, like Poole, like Hollabaugh. It'll be interesting to see here on this restart just how strong a race car he's got, especially being able to now be out in clean air.
Also, right now, since everyone's practically taking their last pit stop that is necessary unless there's another caution, who is going to be the most reckless driver here? Who is just not going to care? Because who cares now? There's no more nice guy. There's no more Bennett just pulling out when we're 3 wide going into a corner. You got to stick it into these corners and hope for the best.
Especially when you think of the fact that if this is the last caution we're going to see today, within the span of 15 laps, we end up seeing the field get all broken up and all spread out. So this is potentially, barring another yellow flag coming out, the best and only opportunity all these drivers are going to have to be able to fight their way up to the front.
Now, let me ask you this, Seth. Do you think this is the last caution we're going to see?
No. I'm throwing this out as if we're going to go into a long green flag run, but to be honest, I mean, you just saw the block that we saw for, I think it was the 8th position at the time between Toledo and Ben Fuller. Just shows the importance of every position, and now these drivers are going more into a defensive mode than they are into offensive. Green flag back in the air. There are 26. No!
Silman did not take off, and Johnny Thomas thought he was. Johnny Thomas smashes into Silman and spins out in front of everyone.
And there's the answer about whether there's a caution or not. Yeah, there's a lot of damage on the front of that number 83. Oh, he's smoking. That car is done. And Thomas was up in the top 10. What a tough break there. Came so far and ends up having an issue on the restart. with less than 30 laps to go. What happened there? Well, that was a little sooner than I expected a caution to come out.
A little bit.
Let's see here. That was Cass Silman, as you mentioned, that was ahead of him there in that yellow and black machine. And as you can see, the 01 is going to accelerate, and Silman just seems like he was not ready. Actually, I've kind of started from second place car Henry Bennett on back. I think he was the one that was surprised when Del Porto accelerated, and that's what started the stack up.
It seemed like it was a more delayed start than what we have been seeing on these restarts. A lot of people were expecting to go at a certain point, and they just didn't. Silman's back end just looks wrecked right now. His wing bent out. It's going to cause a lot of aero damage right there to slow him down.
Yeah, when that rear wing is damaged into the corners, you need that rear wing to be able to keep your car grounded going into the corners. So Silman's going to have his hands full, no doubt about it. It's up yet again for another restart. And I don't think that Del Porto really did anything wrong. According to the rule book, when the pace car peels off, then you get to choose the acceleration point. But at the same time, I don't really think Henry Bennett did anything wrong, because he was trying to time it, just didn't get it going. And that's what happens, especially when you have these type of restarts, is you have that accordion effect. Some drivers are going to be ready for it, some drivers aren't. And unfortunately, you get stack-ups like that.
Updates throughout the race. Toledo has disconnected from the race. He is officially done with his race. Yeah, these restarts are always going to be tricky, especially when you have cars of people that are just wanting to go and finally get up to the lead. Because this is it. I mean, we're coming to the end of the lap. Top 5 racers get a purse out of this. And everyone else, thanks for having fun racing. I mean, people are trying to get up there to where they can earn money and also just win the race in general.
Exactly right. As we look here at the running order, you've got Del Porto the leader, Bennett second, Poole in third, Silman fourth, fifth is Will Height, and then you got Matt Hollabaugh there in sixth. Ben Fuller, who had that contact with Toledo, he's still in seventh. He kind of got through that whole thing unscathed. Dan Liesch, how about him? We saw him race his way back onto the tail end of the lead lap when he got by, I think it was Del Porto at the time. He's in 8th, still in the lead lap. Aaron Hart's not out of this yet. He's back in 9th, and right now Pedro Gomez in 10th, and I believe we've only got 12 cars in the lead lap with Ethan Reasoner and Richard Hines, the last of those. And we haven't really talked much about Richard Hines here today either. It's one of those things where, just mind your manners, mind your P's and Q's, stay out of trouble, avoid the carnage, and you can come away with a good run here at Indy.
Yeah, I mean, Indy is kind of like Super Speedway, where you just want to survive until you get to the end where you can finally start making those moves. And we've seen a lot of these guys like making moves. You're passing 2 to 3 cars just on a straightaway if you get a huge momentum or just a huge draft slingshot past people.
Lights are still on the pace car, so we'll at least go around one more time, which means we will not get a restart with anything more than 21 laps remaining in this race. And it'll be interesting to see here this time where Victor Del Porto decides to accelerate, because he accelerated just a little bit past, I think, where the pit road started, where the pit road wall started. It'll be interesting to see if he changes it up this time, because he kind of caught Henry Bennett flat-footed the last restart. We'll see if maybe he can do it this time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that. We're coming to those 20 laps to go, where I was saying Bennett might just start taking off, no longer just staying behind people, which that's what he's been doing all race. And it seems like when he gets past someone, he has the speed to stay in front of them, but he's just been choosing to lay back, just wait until this time to finally take off.
With that really early caution there, right after the drop of the green flag, 2 things we were not able to observe just yet, and that was just how strong a car out in front Del Porto has, and also the new tires that Matt Hollabaugh and Aaron Hart have. We didn't really get to see if those come into play in terms of them being able to make passes. So hopefully, if we're able to at least make it into turn 1 and complete one lap under green, we'll get the answers to those questions. I don't necessarily think if you're someone like Del Porto and Bennett and Poole, guys who were playing the fuel strategy game, I don't know. Would you be still wary of whether you can make it on fuel or not, and you might be clutching here under Payson?
I mean, you can always clutch it. I don't think there's going to be a green white checkered. There might be one. That's the only reason that you would want to save fuel is if there's a green white checker that comes on later on in the race. But for right now, I think
there are no green white checkers.
Yeah, you're good to the green. So there's really nothing to save at this moment. It's save your tires maybe is the one thing that you can save. But with how many caution laps we've had, they're saving their tires pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So lights are out atop the pace car. We'll get ready to go back green. To be the control car yet again. We had, I believe it was 3 cautions in the first half of this race, 3 cautions in the second half. And again, I'd be very surprised if we have seen our last caution. I think we're going to, especially here on this restart, going to see more aggressive moves, maybe moves that we necessarily didn't see made back on the restarts in the first half of the race. We saw drivers, being gentlemen, backing out, not forcing it 3 wide into a corner. I think we're now into the portion of the race where now they don't care. They're going to basically go for broke. They're going to try and make the pass or end up on the tow truck as a result.
Yeah, I think all that practice you were doing of going 3 wide during practice, here it is. It's time to use it. We're at the end of the race where you're going to be in 3 wide situations, 2 wide situations, trying to make all these passes in every corner, every straightaway. You're going to be trying to move forward as much as you can.
That the edge would maybe go to someone like Bennett or Poole or Hollabaugh, because they've been up towards the front most of this race. They've been able to utilize the slingshots. Whereas you got guys like Stillman and Del Porto, they've been relying on fuel strategy, maybe not up there in the thick of it. So they might be a little less experienced in how the runs and the slingshots are working here under green flag conditions as we're getting ready for the restart yet again. Green flags in the air. Looks like a much cleaner restart this time.
Everyone being nice and easy this time around. But here they come into turn number 1. Porto's going to be the one leading the pack. Got a little bit of a gap, but how long is that going to stay with the draft being right on him?
Yeah, you got a 2-car tandem right there with Bennett and Poole, and here comes Bennett with a run to the inside. Poole is there as well. Tries to go up the middle as they head for turn 3. Looking 4 wide, and Stillman there on the bottom.
We said they were going to get crazy, and they are almost 4 wide going into turn number 3. And there we've got Bennett up in the lead with Poole right behind him.
And then you see right there, they're going to go 3 wide. That is Hollabaugh down on the inside. Stillman in the middle. Del Porto up on the top side, and Ben Fuller's in that mix as well, as the lead is going to be exchanged. John Poole, the third at the top spot.
How is Stillman still up here with that bent wing? We don't know, but Ben Fuller, he was in early wreck. Yeah, I think he might have gotten in the wall there, but he's still running clean. Poole's in the lead right now. You got Bennett and Porto trying to make a move here on second.
They're almost 4 wide back there for the 4th position. 4 cars, 4 different lanes before they got to the entrance of turn 3, as Bennett now clears back for the top position on John Poole the third, and waiting in the wings, a very interested 3rd place running Del Porto.
These were the 3 cars we were talking about strategy. Where were they going to land? But now strategy's out the window. It's just about seeing who is the fastest and who's going to survive here at the end. You got Poole in the lead coming off of turn number 2.
Fresh tires of Hollabaugh there in 4th, and not too far back behind him, 6th place Earnhardt. So those 2 could be a factor in this as well before all is said and done. Down to the inside goes Bennett on Poole. They're going to be side by side into 3 yet again.
I think the real question is, when is the car in 4th place, the number 02, when is he going to make his move to try to make a pass here on 3rd place? Is he just waiting for 10 laps to go? Because we just got to 19 laps to go here.
We got about 7 cars up here in this lead group right now. The caboose on this train is the 9 of Dan Liesch running behind Earnhardt in the 6th position as they continue to exchange the lead back and forth between John Poole the third and Henry Bennett. I don't know if it necessarily is something that is happening here that we saw in the early stages. It looks like that third place car is basically the one that's deciding who gets the momentum, not really able to get enough of a run for himself to be able to take it 3 wide for the lead is Del Porto.
Del Porto might be trying to make a move here on the straightaway. He's got the space. He's going to throw it down below and going to be trying to make a move. Here he comes, Del Porto. Across the line, it was too close to call, but Del Porto might be taking the lead here in turn 1.
Before they even got to the entrance of the corner, got alongside of John Poole III going into turn 1. Those two going to take this battle out of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Looks like Poole got the better exit off of turn 2 on the high side.
Here comes Bennett on the bottom 3 wide going into the corner. Bennett, that is a strong move to do. And Matt, the 0-2, is going to be staying up there as well.
And somehow Matt Hollabaugh, who was on the top side of that 3 wide formation, exits out of turn 4 in the 2nd position.
John Poole III, is he finally trying to pull away from everyone? This is around the time that you see the leader finally get a second or more lead. But is the 0-2 going to be able to have enough draft to get up to him?
And there you see the 0-4 of Valmer Earnhardt. He's trying to get around Del Porto for third. He might have gotten a little wide off of turn 2. Don't know if he brushed the wall or not. It was close as he's trying to get around that 0-1 and get up there in this battle for the lead, which right now is closing up between John Poole III and Matt Hollabaugh.
Bennett, who was going for the lead, but now is falling back. He's down to 4th, and here we come for a battle for the lead.
And now it's all of a sudden closed up. The top 9 are all up here nose to tail. Ethan Riesener and Pedro Gomez have joined the fray. Hollabaugh to the inside for the lead through turns 1 and 2.
Hollabaugh has been in 4th this whole entire run, but now is his time to go to the lead. Is he going to be able to get it? Here comes the Porto, also going to be trying to make a move here on the leaders.
He's going to have a good run down this back straightaway. He's going to stick it to the inside. 3 wide, headed for turn 3. Is anyone going to lift? Hollabaugh backs out of it.
We've been just seeing a lot of people from the 3rd place coming in, going 3 wide, then taking the lead. Is 3rd place the place that you want to be?
Well, right now it certainly seems like it, but it also looks like the run on the top side happens off of turns 2 and 4. Saw John Poole III hold on to that spot. Now Del Porto going to try again down to turn 1. Here comes Earnhardt for 3rd place on Hollabaugh.
Earnhardt is not giving up. Here he comes for 3rd. We've got 15 laps to go, and we're still right on top of everyone.
And now the margin for error is getting slimmer and slimmer. A mistake is going to cost you a chance at this win. We talked about the fact the top 5, they all get a purse at the end of this race. But right now, the top 5 are all within the vicinity of each other, wanting to win this race.
Also, who's in 6th? It's Silman with his broken back wing. It's still there with Bennett.
Somehow, some way, that car is still being able to get the draft, is still getting the downforce he needs to keep up in the running here. And if it happens up here at the front, who knows? The entire top 5 could get wiped out, and that 6th place car of Silman could get through for the race lead.
Do you just wait, or do you try to get up front as fast as possible? A lot of these cars, we've seen them make them move in 3rd. Do you just wait now? You've seen that you can make the move. Do you wait until the last couple of laps to finally do it?
Well, you see, we're seeing all these guys making moves for the race lead, but I would somewhat assume that when you get down to the white flag lap, you don't want to. You got contact! Hollabaugh's around! And Bennett's up and over! Oh, big wreck on the front straightaway! Several cars are airborne!
And just like that, everything has changed. Holy moly, from 3rd place on, who survived?
Oh my goodness, the 0-2 was upside down inside the pit wall. Not just the pit wall that separates the racetrack from pit road, down in the infield was where Hollabaugh's car came to rest. As the 12 car also went up in the air of Bennett. That was a scary wreck, but you knew. You just had the feeling it was going to happen.
I thought it would happen closer in the lead, but for the 3rd place cars, they were just so close to one another, and they just collided. There just wasn't enough space where they were trying to get together, and man.
Smoke pouring out of the car of Henry Bennett. His day is obviously over as that car was up in the air. I think there may have been a 3rd car in the air as well. We're going to go back and take a look at the replay. That was a battle at the time for the 3rd position between Hollabaugh and Bennett, and it just went horribly, horribly wrong.
It looked like Earnhardt and Holloway were trying to get the same position, but there's just you can't have two cars in the same spot. Their tires got together, and around they went.
Let's take a look and see what happened here as we're focused on the 0-2 of Hollabaugh. And yeah, you can see it looks like it's hard to tell if the 0-2 came down or if the 0-4 got tight and went up, but look at how wild a ride. And the third car that did go in the air was actually Earnhardt as well. So all three cars, the 12, 0-4, and 0-2, all went up and into the air. And amazing that a number of other guys that were back behind that were able to get through.
That was one of the most vicious wrecks we've seen so far this race. We've seen multiple cars flipping, but that was vicious.
No doubt about it. And again, I mean, go back to the incident that we had between Frankenfield and Vic Bloom. We said at that time that those were two of the favorites to possibly win the race. Some drivers that we've been mentioning their names all race long now out of it, in Earnhardt, Hollabaugh, and Bennett. They've all been up there inside the top 5 here in the second half of this race, and just like that, they're out of it.
Now you got Poole and Porto, these guys up front. Just wild. How many cars will survive the rest of this race? 12 laps to go.
There's 0-4 who, like a lawn dart, he got shot down to the inside wall and it shot him back up the racetrack. And just up ahead there, I think that was the front wheel on the lower left-hand side of your screen of Bennett. One car, I think that might have been Chris Wilhite, very smartly actually came to pit road. That was probably the safest spot on the front straightaway to go to.
The way cars were flipping, you never know if that was a safe spot.
Yeah, we had a car go over pit road into the infield. So yeah, very good point. Us up for a restart with, I'm assuming, 10 laps to go, dependent on when the lights go out atop the pace car. Assuming that the cars that are on the scoring right now, scored on the lead lap, are correct, we're going to have 10 cars on the lead lap. Actually, I think we're going to only have 9 cars because Henry Bennett's still running on the lead lap, but I don't think that car is going to be able to continue with the wild ride that he took. So I think we're going to have 9 cars on the lead lap still in this run-in. And look at some of these names that have now popped up here into the top 5. Pedro Gomez is now 3rd. Ethan Riesener, who was, I think, 2 laps down early on in this race, he's now back in the lead lap in 4th. Richard Hines up there in 5th. That's what it is about these type of races. It's a race of attrition, and before you know it, all those guys you were talking about in the first half of the race, all of a sudden they're in the garage. All the guys that you didn't even mention in the first half of the race, they're up here with a chance of taking a checkered flag.
Looking at all these cars, Silman got his rear wing figured out, so it's now straight and good. I think the front 2 are still our top 2 to watch out for, but everyone here in the top about 8 still have a decent shot at winning this race.
And, you know, one thing that we haven't mentioned, too, about the leader, Victor Del Porto, yeah, we've talked about his tremendous fuel strategy. It's been able to gain him track position. He's out in front leading this race, nearing 10 laps to go. But also remember, he started this race all the way back in the 28th position. Bided his time. He's now up here at the end and has a shot of maybe winning this thing, as we will get the green flag with 10 laps to go.
I think what's really crazy is that all the cars that are going to be in the top 8, the only one that qualified in the top 10 is John Poole in 2nd. Everyone else was out of the top 5.
Yeah.
And we've got 10 laps to go. It's been crazy this whole entire time. Here we go.
Del Porto was really good there on that start. Opened about maybe 4 car lengths back to John Poole the third. But we've seen on these restarts just how quickly with the draft, second place car is able to draft up to the leader. Let's see what happens on the back straightaway here. Look at Del Porto.
Del Porto trying to stop the bottom, but the top side is clean for Poole and also for Gomez to come in.
Pedro Gomez, boy, he came on late in qualifying, had himself a good starting position. I think he started in the 16th spot here in the Indy 500, and now it's a 3-car race, maybe a 4-car race if Ethan Reasoner can get up here.
He's the Ethan Reasoner in that bright blue car, is trying to make his move up front. Gomez felt a little trapped there, wasn't able to make the move all the way to the bottom and go 3 wide, but he has the speed. He can make a move here, but so can Poole.
Moved up, trying to block John Poole III's advance off of turn 2 and nearly went around off his nose. They're going to be side by side again with Poole to the top side through 3 and 4.
If there isn't a caution, it's down to these 4 cars who's going to win it. And then all the way in the back, you got the backpack that are battling out for 5th place. Who's going to get the last purse there?
Early, if that 5th place car of Dan Liesch, if he's going to maybe be able to catch up to these guys if they continue racing side by side, because he is slowly closing in, so don't count him out just yet.
Liesch is slowly
I think he's got the draft of Ethan Reasoner. I think he's going to catch them.
He might. Poole and DePorto are right on top of each other. Poole's going to go on the outside, going to try to make the move again on turn number 3.
Up in the field, I think we've seen Pedro Gomez the whole day. And now he's got himself in a position to maybe slingshot 3 wide, but he hasn't had much opportunity to test that out. So you got to wonder, how anxious is he going to be to do that, especially with still 7 laps to go when they hit the line this time.
Poole has been up in the lead all race long. DePorto came in after the halfway mark, and coming in with only 15 laps to go, here's Gomez going for the lead.
Looked like for a brief moment there that John Poole III was going to back off, maybe cross over to the inside of Del Porto through turn 2, but instead tucks back in line, now slingshots again to the outside. He's not quite been able to clear coming off of turn 4. Let's see if he can do it this time.
It looks like DePorto is just too strong on the bottom here, coming out of turn number 4, but Poole wants to try to make that move.
Yeah, it looked like right there for a brief moment that John Poole III kind of jerked his car to the right to avoid going down and getting real close to side draft in the center of the corner, the 0-1 of Victor Del Porto. But I guarantee you, when we get closer and closer to the end of this race, he's going to put that car as close down to the door as he can to try and get the run off the corner. I think right now he thinks it's a little too early to make that kind of a risky move.
Blocking the inside line is probably the best thing, because DePorto was the one that was the strongest on the outside. Is Poole going to be able to make it this time around?
And right now it looks like Gomez has been offering a little bit of help down the straightaways to John Poole III, but John Poole has just not had the momentum necessary to follow up through the center of the corner to get around the outside.
With 5 laps to go, is this the corner where Poole's going to make it? He's finally about a half car length in, but it's still, DePorto is so strong on the bottom.
Right there, though, it looked like Poole hung even. Let's see if he can keep even through turn 2. If he does, he might have the momentum off turn 2 down the straightaway. Not quite. He's still about half a car length behind.
They're staying so close to another. When is Ethan Reasoner going to be able to make a move here? Is Gomez going to make a move? Or are they just going to let these two battle it out until the last corner, and then they're going to make their move?
Yeah, as of right now, I haven't really seen Gomez get close up to these two when they've been side by side. I don't know if he just doesn't have the car to get up there and slingshot or not. As Reasoner jumps to the outside, that's going to be the battle for third, as they're still side by side for the lead into 1.
I don't know if that's the move for those guys in the back. They kind of want to stay close to the leaders and going side by side. Is going to slow them down. But DePorto still staying strong at the bottom, keeping Poole on top, and not be able to make the pass here.
John Poole III as well, because he kind of needs that car behind him to help him get that momentum down the straightaway. He can slingshot to the outside and draw even, but he needs to be about half a car length, if not more, going into the corner if he's going to keep that momentum into the second corner, whether it be turn 2 or turn 4. Ooh, maybe a little contact right there between the two coming off the 4th corner.
3 laps to go. DePorto has been looking strong here on the bottom. Poole has not been able to make the pass on the outside, but is he going to be able to have enough speed here on the momentum? Does he lay off, then try to make a move? Or does he keep going?
I think right now John Poole III's got 2 choices. He's either going to continue to beat the dead horse of trying that outside line, which has not gotten him the race lead, or he's going to try and get some momentum through the corner and maybe slingshot to the inside off of turns 2 or 4. But the question is, can he make the move quick enough before Del Porto comes down to block him? Because that's the line that Del Porto's been running on both the front and back straightaways.
Well, right there, it looks like Poole got the lead on that spot. That is where he wants to be. 2 laps to go. He can stay in second and still win it, but he's going to be having the run off of turn number 2. Is he going to get it to pass DePorto or not?
You know, that's a tremendous point right there as well, with the fact he may not necessarily have to be 1 car length in front to be able to win this race. He just has to beat him by a nose. So if he could get his rear wing to the start-finish line first with that runoff of turn 4, he would win this race. That may be all he needs. They're going to be coming to the white flag this time. John Poole III's in second. Is he in the catbird seat? Del Porto's going to be doing a lot of mirror driving.
Coming across the line that time, I think it was DePorto. Is DePorto going to finish it out here?
It was Poole, actually. Poole.
Coming off of turn number 2, is Gomez going to have enough speed, or is Reasoner going to do anything, or is it down to Poole and DePorto? DePorto going to be in the lead, looking strong. Here comes Poole on the outside. He's been doing it for the past 5 laps. Is this the time that he's going to have?
Well, DePorto's going to have to hope that he can fight and get the front straightaway momentum. John Poole III, can he swing around the outside here out of turn 4? He swings low. He looks high. With the drag race, he's going to get the side grab. DePorto up into him.
It's going to be Poole.
Oh my goodness, the 20 hits the wall hard, as does the 01. I think the 01 tried to block, but John Poole III is going to win this race according to the scoring.
Poole's car is so destroyed, he can't even drive it straight, but he somehow crossed the line first.
There is no rear wing on that machine.
Holy moly.
It was hard to tell. I believe the bumpers, I think that when Poole swung to the outside, I think Del Porto tried to move up to block, but Poole was there. And obviously it's coming out of turn 4. It's the final lap. There's no way that John Poole III is going to lift. Even do burnouts. I think that car is going to have to get towed to victory lane. Let's go back, take a look at that finish. Shocked that both of them were able to get to the start-finish line. I thought that maybe, just maybe, they were going to wreck and Gomez was going to come away with the victory. Here it is, 4. Poole got to the outside, and we'll see who makes the move that caused the contact. Up. And right there, that actually looked like almost like a little bit of net code right there. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the 20 car crossed the start-finish line in the air to win this race.
It was in the air or just barely above the air. It was so
wow.
Like that was the most insane finish you could ask for. 200
and
laps.
If the scoring is correct, I believe that was 13 1,000ths of a second that John Poole III crossed the line ahead of Victor Del Porto. And as you said, took us 200 laps to get to that point, and man, it did not disappoint at all.
200 laps, 500 miles here at Indy. That was one of the craziest finishes we could ask for, but a great race overall.
No doubt about it. We saw a lot of our front runners, a lot of the guys we had pegged as favorites to win this race exit early. Seems like maybe the one guy that stood out of those that survived was John Poole III. Victor Del Porto, we didn't really talk about him until he was up there late, so obviously he was a contender as well, but we didn't really notice that back in the first half. But it just seemed like John Poole III consistently, from green flag to checkered flag, he was one of the guys that had his name up there in the forefront of one of our guys to watch as a potential winner of this race.
Well, it looks like
some interviews here.
Yeah, we've got our drivers in the waiting room to be pulled in.
Third place finisher, Pedro Gomez. Seth Cole, Sam Dyer up here in the Flat Out Racing Network booth. And man, a third place run for you here today. You were up there right in the vicinity of the top 2. Was there anything that you could have done to be able to wrestle the lead away from them? think we're having some technical difficulties here.
Hello, guys. It's my turn. Pedro.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yep, we got you now. All right, so Pedro, I'll just repeat what I had for the question here. You finished in third place, but with about 10 laps to go, you were right there in the hunt with the 20 and the 0-1. Was there anything that you could have done to be able to pass those two, take the race lead?
Yes, hello all. Thank you to the league and hello. I don't know what exactly happened at the end of the race, but I finished this race with a lot of luckily because one, I saw the accident. I really hope to get a P2 or even a P1, but I'm absolutely so happy about this P3 because at the last stop, I missed the pit lane, the pit place, and I need to make a lot of maneuvers to to conclude the pit stop. But I'm absolutely happy with this P3. The 292 was a amazing racing.
Going off of turn 4, you saw the two race leaders wreck. Did you think that maybe, just maybe, you'd be able to pass the both of them and steal this win away?
I hope that, but not exactly happened to me.
Well, obviously a great run for you. You ended up getting track position with the timing of that last caution, put you up there in the top 5. And as we stated, you were in the hunt there for the win. Almost snuck it away there at the end, but we want to give you the opportunity here, open the mic up for you to be able to give shout out and thanks to anybody that you want to here after your podium finish.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Pedro Gomez there, finishing in third. We're actually going to do something a little bit different for this race. We're going to actually interview a couple of other guys that were inside of the top 5 as well. Let's bring in first, before we get to second and our race winner, and Dan Liench, who finished in the 5th spot. Dan, Seth Cole, and Sam Dyer up here in the Flat Out Racing Network Studios booth. 5th today. You got trapped a lap down at some point. You were able to race your way back on the lead lap, and then you're up there with a chance of winning this race. I mean, was there anything that you were able to maybe strategize there that could have gotten you up there to potentially take this race win away?
I don't think I could have done any better than I did, actually. I'm very, very happy with making a top 5 tonight. Actually, going a lap down was kind of my decision because I was one of the first ones to pit in that cycle. And I knew I could get some fresh tires on and make up some distance. So I started short fueling from there. And that's what got me moving up through the field was all the nice, good, clean flag racing, green flag racing, and the short fuel and the good tires got me up toward the front. So, yeah, my strategy paid off in the end. I had a real good time.
Dan,
Yeah, definitely documenting.
What were your thoughts
sorry,
on the 2 cautions that came late during that time?
It was a little bit of a setback, but not much. The first one was good. The second one was a little bit of a setback and moved me back from 7th to about 9th or 10th, somewhere in there. So it was a little bit of a setback, but not much. And then once it came time to fly, I think I had my fuel about right and I could hang with them and work my way up. But I wanted to thank the guys for sponsoring me over at Spark VR over in Connecticut. And also our thanks to West Sports Radio for flying on board with us tonight and helping me get the chance to come in here and do this. And also a big thank you to Chad Frankenfeld for putting all this together. And a thank you to you guys for covering it so well.
It was an exciting race for us, too. Started 22nd. You finished 5th. A great day for you. Congrats on a top 5 run.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's bring in Victor Del Porto, and let's find out what he has to say about that incident off of turn 4 on the final lap. Victor, Seth Cole, Sam Dyer up here in the Flat Out Racing Network Studios booth. Second place run for you, but describe what was going through your mind there in that battle between yourself and the 20 car going through turns 3 and 4 on that last lap.
Hello, Seth. Good night, everyone. Good evening. Sorry. I will try to speak English very well to understand me. So I was think John was closer to the wall, so I was trying to be closer to him to try to maintain the first position. But I totally got wrong my think, and then unfortunately I lost the race. But second is still good. It was a very very nice race, and it's the most important for me.
And like you were possibly going for a fuel strategy run. Looked like you might be good to go on fuel before that late caution came out. Were you good to go if the thing had remained green to the end?
Yes, and it was even worse for me when I entered the pit and the El Camino, because I was very very good in fuel, and my I think my time management was better than Henry Bennett. So when it came out, I was I don't believe this. So it's very very sad to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you gained a good track position, but yeah, it looked like you were definitely the one that was able to save the most fuel there on that last green flag run. But still, as you stated, a second place run, excellent performance. We're going to turn the mic over to you and give you the opportunity to be able to shout out or thank anybody that you want to.
I think, Seth, first of all, I want to thank Thales Toledo, who sent me a message talking about this race and this championship. So thank Thales for sending me this message. Thanks, Chad, to answer me very fast with my doubts. I think it was sending too much messages for him, but it was okay. He answered me very well. I want to thank my sponsor, Toolbox Computadores, my friends from my team, Static Racing, Rodrigo Camina, Luis Figueiredo, Tony Peixoto. I want to thank to the people who was watching my camera on board. I'm streaming my camera on board, so if you want to watch this end of this awesome race or the tire race, you can watch my channel, Victor Del Porto Racer. This the link for my stream is the thread in the forum of racing. My family too, my mother, my father, my cousins. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Congrats, John. Sorry that this final was terrible for me. I was very close to win, but I'll totally mistake my understanding about this end. Congrats, Pedro Gomes. It was a challenger, as I can say. Every week we race it together, each one against you. So congrats, Pedro. Congrats, Effing. Congrats, Dan, by this race. Thank you, guys, and good evening.
That's in your second place run, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Last but not least, let's bring in the race winner, John Poole III. All over again. But John Poole III, the winner of the 5th Annual Elite Racing League Indianapolis 500. And John, I mean, walk us through like those final 10 laps, because it seemed like you kept trying to get the outside line going. You couldn't clear off of turn 4. You get to the final lap. What was the strategy?
Wow. Last 10 laps, I knew the car was going to be light on fuel, so it was going to be able to hold the bottom a lot better, so the fronts weren't going to wear out. So I knew getting the top rolling was going to be a challenge, per se, but if you keep a tight line, you can maintain at least. And I just kept working it, kind of realized that if I got a little bit of draft off of turn 4, it could easily get to the line. So that was my goal all along, was to try to get side by side. I kind of timed it bad, I'll be honest. I wasn't probably going to get there, and then there was some netcode there with Victor and chaos ensued, and I somehow spun across the line in first. I don't even know how. I'm speechless.
We were looking at you, I believe it was Del Porto, as well as at the time Henry Bennett. You guys all looked like you were back on that long green flag run just before those last two cautions came out, like you guys were kind of in fuel conservation mode. I think you came to pit road at the conclusion of 169. At that point, would you have been able to make it on fuel to the checkers?
It was going to be close, very close. I'm talking, I would say, less than a tenth of a gallon close. It was really dependent if you got a car that was in front of you and you got to, because the dirty air just, you could gain like a half a gallon or half a tenth of a gallon a lap just by dirty air. So if I would have got that, I probably could have saved it easily, but it was going to be close. It was going to be close, but you know, that caution flew there late and kind of threw things for a loop.
Sam, you got anything?
With those late cautions that you were talking about, what were your thoughts coming in with those last two cautions?
I'll be completely honest with you, I was scared. I was decent on the long runs. I felt confident in long run speed, but short run speed, no. Racing that aggressive and such like that, that's not my style. I don't like to do it, but when I have to do it, you know, you put it into a corner up against the wall, you do it. And, you know, had that one late caution, first late caution, I was like, it was kind of not pit, you know, it was like 3 laps after caution, but then that last caution there with Valmore, Matt, Henry, it was a no-brainer to go for 4 tires there at the end because tires, just the grip fall off was incredible.
Now, obviously, you know, we had cautions peppered in, but at one point of this race, did you start thinking of the race backwards in terms of pit strategy?
Oh, absolutely. I think of as soon as the green flag drops, it's thinking backwards. Or as soon as another caution comes out, retool strategy. I'm always thinking strategy because that's what wins and loses your. That's what can win and lose your races. I knew that the strategy Valmore was on there really early on was not going to work. He was going to be about 10 laps short, so my goal was just to get within a window and stick to that window.
Congratulations on the victory. An exciting last lap, an exciting last few hundred feet. Got yourself a premature burnout before even taking the checker flag routes, but I guess that'll still count as a burnout. We're going to turn the mic over to you and give you the opportunity to shout out and thank anybody you want to here.
All right. Well, thank you again, guys, for putting on the broadcast. Incredible job, Seth. It's nice seeing you again. Nice seeing our 2003 community buds dip and dive into the iRacing world. Got to thank Chad first and foremost, I guess, for putting on this 500-mile series. Got to thank the sponsor of the event. Wow. And also got to thank the guys I was hanging out with during the race over at the Splash and Go Discord, who also Splash and Go graphics with Cosman painted up my paint this evening. So I got to thank those guys. They're keeping me calm throughout the night. We talked about some pretty interesting topics, so don't go back and watch my live stream of that. But yeah, it was just thanks everybody. Thanks for the drivers too. Victor, got to thank Victor for racing me clean there throughout the event, and got to thank Henry. He also raced me very clean. Matt and some of the guys up front. Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of respect up front with most of the competitors. So just got to thank them for giving the room and, you know, having hard but clean race.
All right. Well, congrats on well earned. Kept yourself up there in the top 5 for pretty much the majority of the race and just kept yourself out of trouble as well to be there at the end. So congrats on your victory and go and celebrate.
Alrighty. Thank you so much.
All right. So yeah, a little bit of deja vu for me because, as he stated, he and we raced each other in 2003, and we've raced some Indy 500s in 2003, and it always seemed like he was always up there at the front at the end of it. So not surprised to see him up at the front at the end of this one either. But as we look here at the finishing results for this race, Sam, your closing thoughts on this thing?
That was the funnest race we could ask for. We saw our lead contenders get taken out a little bit before halfway, and you never thought who was going to be there at the end, but John Poole somehow survived being up front most of the race and won it out.
Yeah, it's just like watching a super speedway race, really, because you end up having a race of attrition. Those guys that you may focus on in the early portions of the race, all of a sudden you see them in the garage area, and a new bunch of faces hop up there towards the front of the field. The constant one seemed to be John Poole III. I mean, he qualified 5th. He stayed up there at the front all race long. I don't think he fell outside of the top 10 this entire race. So he seemed to be the one guy that we singled out of those guys that seemed prime contenders that seemed to survive till the very end. But I also got to give a shout out there as well to Victor Del Porto, because we were looking at him as the fuel strategy guy. And then in the closing stages, I mean, he had a car that was able to hang with John Poole III, and just that little bit of net code cost him the victory. But to be honest, it was going to come down really between one of those two guys. And I think that the two varying strategies on those two's part, John Poole III, he was basically going for lap times, for speed, for track position, whereas Del Porto, he was going for fuel strategy. And the two of them come together on the final lap, battling it out for the victory. It's just amazing how those different strategies all seem to culminate into bringing different drivers on different varying strategies into the same vicinity with a checkered flag on the line. And a lot of guys as well with great comeback runs. Pedro Gomez, we didn't really. We saw Cass Silman. He was basically on a fuel stretch. He comes home with 6th. Chris Wilhite, 7th. Richard Hines, Joshua Person. These guys all finished on the lead lap, and a lot of them, we really didn't showcase them because they weren't up there at the front. But man, did they make an impact when it mattered most in the closing stages. Wrap up our broadcast here for the 5th running of the Elite Racing League Indianapolis 500. John Poole III is your winner 200 laps later. We had a little bit of everything. We had fuel strategy. We had late cautions, late restarts. We had cars airborne. And we had an exciting finish with John Poole III, 13 one-thousandths of a second, taking the victory, spinning across the start-finish line to take the checkered flag. We will see you guys next time for the next broadcast that will be coming out. I believe next on tap is going to be the regular season finale for Elite Racing League's Mega Driver 86 series. That's going to be at Daytona. So this race was chaotic. That race is going to be just as chaotic, as drivers will be vying for last-minute playoff positions. But until then, we will see you guys next time. For Sam Dyer, I'm Seth Cole, and we will see you guys on the next broadcast on the Flat Out Racing Network.